From the Smith Radio Studios, it's Carrie and Brian Smith. This is Smith Radio. You can tweet at Smith Radio, SMYTH Radio. And now, your host, Carrie and Brian Smith.
We got sound.
Almost everything was perfect. Oh, my goodness.
That's exactly how I wanted it.
Okay, good. Welcome to Smith Radio. I am your co-host, Brian Smith, along with my cousin,
Carrie Smith. Is it cousins with a T?
It is if you just off the cuff.
All right.
So,
kind of like I'm scared.
I'm definitely scared, without a doubt.
Scared? Okay.
And so,
whatever.
Military Veteran Talk Radio, we come to you every Sunday evening, 5 to 8 p.m. Eastern, exposing the deep state, exposing the fake news, telling you, giving it to you straight and plain. What we do is we take it, we chew out and spit out the bone, and we give you all the meat. Everything you need to know. So when you go into work tomorrow morning, Monday morning, you know exactly what you're talking about. There was a lot of things that happened this week, and we're going to run through it. It's going to be an incredible show, just as always. Folks, if you like what you hear on the show, share this with your friends and your family. Go and share it on Twitter, retweet, tweet, and Facebook it. We're on Facebook. We're on the Twitters. And
on the Twitters. Okay. All right.
The Twitters. If you're watching this live right now, you're either on Periscope, Vimeo.com/Smith Radio, or go to SmithRadio.com. This show is live every Sunday evening on SmithRadio.com. Oh. CNN just gave me an alert that teachers are breaking down because of guns. Oh, man. We got articles on that, too. So, follow me at Brian P. Smith, and then Carrie's handle on Twitter is at Smith Radio, SMYTH Radio.
And real quick, let me get this out of the way. Make sure that you guys are supporting independent journalists who are giving you real news, that are not just giving you the fake news narrative. And you can do that with us. I encourage you to do this with everybody that's doing what we do. But in the case of Smith Radio, you want to go to patreon.com/Smith Radio. And for your hard-earned money, for at least $1 a month, I mean, you won't even miss that, you will get to be a part of our party on, Telegram. We have a group of all our Patreon patrons, and they are 24/7 just partying it up. It's a lot of fun. Everybody loves each other and gets along great and loves to talk about, could be politics, family, whatever. Brian and I are on almost every single day, so you get to have direct access to us. Again, it's patreon.com/Smith Radio. Don't forget that is SMYTHRADIO.
Absolutely. And I've actually got a couple of articles from our group that posted them in our group. I've got some articles, show prep that we used for this week, and we absolutely love it. Love the show prep and the help as well, because there's a lot of news out there that we never get to. Somebody posted an article about guns and gun control and shootings, mass shootings, and it flies in the face of everything you've ever heard, but mass shootings or school shootings are down tremendously compared to the 1970s, 1980s, and the 1990s.
But that flies in the face of conventional wisdom and observation, right?
Well, see, that's the thing, folks. We are connected to each other 24/7 via the intrawebs.
Okay.
We got news. You get more information right now in one single day than somebody in the early 1900s would get in an entire year.
Well, it's interesting you say that. You can almost do that same comparison. You know, there was a day where radio didn't exist, television didn't exist. I wonder if they experienced the same phenomenon that we are experiencing today, which is that things seem like they're happening more often. Like maybe when radio came out, the world seemed like a more dangerous place because you were getting all these reports from all over the world, where prior to radio, you get the newspaper, but sometimes, most of the time, it would be very local. You would only be reading things about what was happening locally. And so I wonder if they went through the same phenomenon. They probably did.
Yeah, I had read articles in the past when new technology, things like that come out, it's our world gets smaller. Not physically, but we can actually reach out. Like, just the other day, there's a guy that in my day job, there's a guy that I work with in Arizona, and he supplies us with tools and things like that. And I emailed him real quick about 3 o'clock our time, and I said, hey, I need this overnight at ASAP. And first thing in the morning, it showed up from Arizona. He got the email. He sent it overnight at 1:30 in the afternoon his time, and we got it somewhere mid-morning. So, I mean, it's just FedEx has made it that much smaller. UPS, the unions.
DHL.
Yeah.
There's a bunch.
I don't know if DHL is union. FedEx is absolutely non-union.
Well, I was just pointing out the privatization of the post office for the most part, right?
Yeah, and the fact that nobody's sending letters anymore. Wow.
Amazon's sending a lot of flat stuff. I don't know if you call that a letter, but
probably documents. Yeah, letters, documents.
Yeah,
maybe not.
Or smaller packages, very small. But yeah.
Right. So this day to day, folks, mark this down in your calendar. This day to day in America, this Rush Limbaugh coined it. The decade that will go down in history forever. Donald Trump's booming economy, the decade forever. I'm going to have to say, forgive me, folks, I'm going to stretch a little bit further than that. This may be a moment in time that we will never see for a century.
Why?
Because this is the first president that we have ever seen to literally upend the system. And start to install capitalist ideologies and because of the world we live in and because of technology and because everything's at our fingertips, he's able to spin this thing around in a year and a half, which is completely unheard of. Unheard of.
It's interesting that you say that. You know, you talk about capitalism as if the Trump movement is the first time this has ever been tried, as if the America has always been a socialist, quasi-semi-communist country, and that, you know, we're having this enlightenment where we're starting to realize, hey, maybe we should try capitalism for the first time ever.
I am saying that because for the last 50, 60, maybe
100.
Okay.
It's been about 100. I mean, the IRS was started over 100 years ago.
Okay, so after the Industrial Revolution.
Okay.
Right after Industrial Revolution, we started to go down that slippery slope, folks. And we have to go. It's like what a football coach. Halftime, you're down by 40.
Yeah.
You're the Bengals, and they call.
I'm so mad that we don't have Al Pacino's speech at my fingertips.
Edit it.
Was he? He didn't cuss, did he? No, he didn't cuss, did he?
But it's like they call up Anthony Robbins to show up in the middle of halftime to give them the talk, the speech.
You got to go all the way to the top. When you're down that far, you got to get Anthony Robbins involved.
yes, and you got to get your mind right.
Oh my gosh.
And the bottom line, he'll make you feel good and he'll give it to you, raise you up. But the basic thing is, get back to the basics. And that's what Donald Trump is doing. He's a leader amongst leaders, and he knows when things are falling apart. You got to get back to the basics, folks.
He is a leader among leaders. He's the type of person, think of the most powerful, influential, intelligent leader that you've ever met in your life. If he had a chance to be in front of Donald Trump, you know what he'd say, or she? They'd say, I got to sit down and listen. I got to listen to this guy. I got to learn something from him.
I got a couple of questions I want to ask you real quick. To bounce some ideas off you.
Yeah.
You got a second? Something like that, I'm sure.
Here's my question. Can you tell me everything you know? That would be the question, probably.
But anyway, so we're going to talk a little bit about that. I've got an audio soundbite from Rush Limbaugh this week. Well, actually, from Friday. And we're going to get into the boom numbers, like the title of the show. Boom goes the numbers. This is huge. This economy is ripping and roaring and setting records like we haven't seen records like this. And we're talking generations.
While you're setting up the next thing we're going to talk about, I want to throw in that we are definitely going to talk about, we're going to be the first conservatives, if you get a chance to listen to us live right now, Sunday, 5 p.m., Eastern time, every Sunday. Right now, you're going to be listening to the first conservatives that are going to weigh in on the reaction of Rudy Giuliani going on the shows today and talking about the powers of the president, in particular, his client, the president of the United States, Donald Trump.
Right. No, absolutely. We'll get into that in the first hour without a doubt. But we'll talk about the numbers. What do the numbers mean? Barack Obama, did you hear?
No.
He's shell-shocked.
About?
There's a new book coming out, and Barack Obama in this book says that he really set Donald Trump up for a good economy.
Well, that's clear, isn't it?
Absolutely clear.
I'm trying to be nice, right?
So we're going to get into that. This contrast and compare the absolute opposites from one man to another. Absolute opposite ideologies.
He worked for 8 years to make this work for Trump. Look, hey, I will give Obama full credit, and I'm being totally honest about this. Yeah. The only way we could get a President Trump is for Obama to do what he did for 8 years, period.
Right.
There's no way we would have gotten a Trump without that.
No, and hashtag thank you, Obama, or thanks, Obama, hashtag when Trump was elected. No, really, thanks, Obama, you gave us Trump. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, we would have ended up with Jeb Bush or maybe Marco. I don't know. I mean, I don't even think Cruz. I think the only reason Cruz did as well as he did in the primary, and the only thing bad about Cruz, I love his ideology. I think he's a little bit snaky, but the only thing I really don't like about him is I don't think it's constitutional that he's allowed to be senator, let alone president.
It's not mean. We're not trying to be mean. It's not personal.
Just the Constitution, and there's a reason for it. There's a very good reason why they made those constitutional requirements to be a senator and to be president of the United States. And that's my only problem with him. Other than that, he can sound off all he wants because I like his ideology. Sometimes I think it's a little snaky the way he goes about it. But the thing is I don't think he would have done as well as he did in the primary because here's this guy, theoretical constitutionalist, as I've coined that phrase, right, yeah. Where he's just like really hardcore on the right as far as constitutionalism, conservatism, founding father type stuff. He had the, he was a debate champion, but he had the Constitution word for word memorized. I think he had to recite it for like sixth grade for like a competition. He won a competition for memorizing the Constitution or something like that. And the point is this is not what wins primaries in the past. The fact that he did as well as he did was because of Obama.
Right, and we were looking for someone who just give me somebody who respects the rule of law,
right.
Somebody who respects the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Just give me somebody that respects that, just a little bit,
and somebody that's willing to push back on actual socialism. We did not see that with George W. Bush. I mean, it was just kind of like, what was the thing he ran on? We're going to give money back that we've been taxing too much. It sounds like a conservative principle, but he wrote a check to every single working person, maybe even non-working, unemployed, adult, whatever, $300. All of us, we all got a check for $300. That is wealth redistribution, people. I'm just telling you.
Well, not only that, but the people, the really, really rich people that put in $30,000, I got part of their money.
Yes, right.
Come on, man.
Look, if you're rich and you put in more money, a bigger portion of the check that Brian and I got came from those people, as opposed to myself, where only a tiny sliver of a percent went towards those $300 checks.
Right.
So,
no, crazy nonsense.
My point is that, there's conservatism as we know it just has not really been pushed by anybody since Reagan. And then you get, and it kept going further and further to left until we got to Barack Obama, where the country finally woke up and said, you know what, maybe we should pump the brakes.
It was
just
like
a little bit.
It was like that frog in the boiling water. The Democrats turned the heat up too fast.
Oh, I see.
And we all
saying.
Jumped out.
You're saying if they went slower, we would have went all the way.
Oh, it'd have been dangerous if they'd have gotten somebody. If they'd let
if Hillary won,
if they'd have let Mitt Romney run and win. They should have let Mitt Romney win.
Right.
We would have been even more frustrated. It would have been sad.
I see what you're saying. So give Obama the 4 years. We get the Obamacare, which is pure communist level health care.
Right. And Mitt Romney would do nothing to repeal that ever.
At all. In fact, he would just he'd be doubling down, but being he would act like he wasn't happy about it.
Right. They should have gone 4-year periods. Because it had been slower heat. Right. It wouldn't been Obama to have 8 years, and we honestly believed that he stole, well, not that he stole, but that Mitt Romney was in cahoots with him, which is probably true. And by the way, Barack Obama did pay Fusion GPS to dig up dirt on Mitt Romney.
Wow. On Mitt Romney?
Yeah. Back in back 2012.
So he colluded with foreign governments in order to win the election.
Sure. Yeah, definitely, without a doubt. And
well,
but
anyways,
we don't, and we got Trump, and we're going to talk about that. Trump is blasting the cost of the Russian collusion hoax. We're going to get into that, as well as talking about Rudy Giuliani and the memo that came out.
Yeah, that's going to be the big news, I believe, in the first half of the week coming up. They're going to be talking about the powers of the president and what Rudy Giuliani said, especially because the left is going to be really pushing home. They're going to be lying to you. They were already lying today, and we are going to expose that. We'll be the first to expose that, and you'll hear the rest of them talk about it the rest of the week, and you will say, well, I heard it on Smith Radio first.
Absolutely. And we're also going to get into racism. Racism in America. Folks, racism has gone so far into the bridge abutment by the Democrat Party and by the media. It is so wretchedly awful.
So sick of it.
That Brooke Baldwin on CNN is disgusted.
Can't believe it.
She is truly upset and so far gone that I've got a clip where she's blasting on Keith Olbermann and blasting on Samantha Bee. She just goes off on them.
I can't wait.
And it's hysterical, folks. We're going to talk about that, as well as Candace Owens.
Oh, again. She's been in the news several times over the past month.
She did a piece on a young black youth. A Ute this week.
Okay.
That came out and said, I was a Black Lives Matter, BLM supporter until I decided one day, you know what, maybe I ought to research them a little bit and figure out what's going on. And lo and behold,
wow,
I don't support them anymore.
Wow.
Come out and walk away from them, folks.
Okay.
I'm telling you.
Cool.
We've got great news for conservatism. We've got great news for the country, just in general for the country, healing wounds, if you will, created by the Democrat Party.
All righty.
As well as, and when we talk about the little bit of racism, Roseanne's in that too. There's a little bit of fake news that some people got trolled by this week. It's all right. A little bit of fake news having to do with Roseanne and her show and getting picked up, as well as, MS-13.
Again?
They won't let it go. The Democrats will not let MS-13 go.
It's their constituency.
Yes. And
they have to love on them.
Mark Thiessen says Democrat dishonesty on MS-13, a gift to President Trump.
Of course it is. We knew this was coming. Anyway.
Did you hear about Eric Holder this week?
I heard he was in the news. You'll have to refresh our memory. Are we starting with that?
2020 Eric Holder.
Oh, please. Please bring it
Give
on.
Give it to me.
Oh, you are. Hold on, people. You are allowed to run from prison. Yes. They will let you out.
Oh, Marion,
they flat out will let you out.
Yeah, Marion Barry, the mayor of Washington, D.C., doing crack, buying crack from an undercover FBI agent.
Okay.
And he went to prison, got reelected. Marion Barry, addicted to crack.
I can't believe
really
this.
Needed help.
This is a real story.
Got reelected mayor from prison.
That's unbelievable. I mean, and they'll let you out to vote and all that kind of stuff. If you're a senator, or I remember when I was in social studies in high school, maybe it was grade school.
If you're in for a felony, you can't go out to vote unless you're a Democrat.
If you are a senator,
you got to get the floor.
Congressman, they will let you out of prison every single time you have to go to the floor to vote. Every time. I don't know if you stay in handcuffs.
I'd like to see you stay in the orange jumpsuit.
That's gotta look bad. Or how about the black and white stripes?
The old school
with the big ball, what do they call that? The ball and chain. Yeah. I think you can carry it. You can carry it while walking. It makes a lot of noise with the chain rustling around, but
it's easier to walk while carrying it.
Oh yeah, you don't drag it. My gosh, that's not good for the woodwork on the Capitol floor. Are you kidding me? Oh my gosh, you'd have to replace that stuff. Yes. Unbelievable. Oh, somebody call the carpenter.
Oh, please do. So I guess I'd like to start the first hour off with We're talking about, folks, this whole thing, this whole hoax, this Russian collusion hoax. It's all turned out to be exactly what we've been talking about all along. There's no surprises here, only fact and truth being exposed to verify everything we've been saying. Everybody from Rush Limbaugh to Tucker Carlson to us, Donald Trump, the Mark Dices of the world, the Paul Joseph Watsons, Alex Jones ain't crazy on this anymore.
And I'm not trying to pat myself on the back or pat Brian on the back or whatever, but gosh, I mean, we've had this right so early on. I mean, honestly, the Russian collusion hoax hadn't really quite developed yet before we already debunked it.
Right.
We had debunked it, what was it, December 11th of 2016, and it was still in its infant stages where they're trying to figure out where to go with it, and every single time they tried to develop the hoax even more, we would just reiterate to everybody to go back and watch that episode or to just whatever you need to, or just reiterate something we said in that episode, and it aged nicely, but I just have to bring that up every time.
Was that somebody had posted 2 articles, 2 full-length page articles in our group that was talking about General Flynn and how he was completely innocent and completely exonerated. And the FBI said, yeah, we got nothing on him. He's cool.
Right.
He might be mistaken, but clearly he didn't lie to us.
Yeah, well, it turns out they were hiding the fact that the FBI agents that interviewed him had stated in official documents that they did not believe that General Flynn lied to them. And so the investigators were trying to hide that and keep it classified so that people didn't find out that the FBI themselves already did not believe that he lied. So definitely General Flynn got railroaded on that. So what do you got? You
want to get into the interview with
Rudy Giuliani. So
what's going on?
So here's the reason why we need to talk about this. This is all breaking news. So Rudy Giuliani is part of the defense team for the president. I think Sekulow is another one, Jay Sekulow, and there's another one that
Joe DeGeneva?
Probably. I think so. Joe. There's a Joe. Is there Joe or John? Whoever it is.
Joe. Very awesome, outspoken black guy.
Lawyer.
Yeah, lawyer.
Lawyer.
And absolutely every word that comes, everything he says, when he says something, you're hanging on every word because he only speaks to put things together. He doesn't pontificate.
So they came out with a memo, and I don't even remember exactly when it came out. It was in the past couple of days. I'm not sure if it came out on Friday or yesterday or whenever it came out, but it caused the left to go crazy over the weekend. So they had all these talk shows interviewing Rudy Giuliani, and of course the talking heads are just nonstop wall-to-wall on MSNBC and CNN about this memo. And so I think it's very important that we cover this very, very carefully, and so that way you guys understand what's going on here. Because right now CNN and MSNBC are reporting as though there's blood in the water, and that's just absolutely not the case. And there's a couple things that Rudy Giuliani said on F. Chuck Todd. I can't help it. Rush Limbaugh calls him F. Chuck Todd, so I can't help but to say F. Chuck Todd. But is he Meet the Press or Deface the Nation? Whichever one he's on, was interviewed by Chuck Todd.
Okay, so that was what you sent me this morning?
Yes.
Yeah, that's Deface the Nation.
Deface the Nation.
Yeah.
And so anyway, he wanted to clear a lot of things up. In the interview, I thought that Rudy Giuliani made a good case, explained everything adequately, and then I'm watching on CNN and NBC all the taken out of context little clips from the interview, and they're trying to report things that didn't happen. So I just want you guys to all see what really went down and what it all really means. And what you'll find is that what Rudy Giuliani said is what we have been saying on Smith Radio for months, like almost word for word. And in fact, I can even reiterate and restate the way Rudy Giuliani has said it to pretty much match up exactly what we've been telling you guys for months now. So do you have a clip ready? Or
I do. We got Rudy coming up. Oh, is this Rudy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have them? Oh, this is the first one?
Yeah, this is the first one for Rudy. So this is gets right into it where he starts asking Rudy Giuliani a question. And when you hear the beep, the little beep, that's where we'll stop and then comment. There's different clips because it's cut up into different sections.
Oh, okay, cool.
Mr. Trump flexes his presidential muscles, and his lawyers say his powers are nearly unlimited.
He's the President of the United States. He has all the powers under Article 2.
All right, from the memo.
Did you hear that?
He has all the powers under Article 2.
Now, that's very key. He said all the powers under Article 2. What does that mean? Article 2 is a description in the Constitution. It is the Constitution. Article 2 is the description of the executive branch of the Constitution. There's Article 1, 2, and 3, and each one of those enumerates exactly what the stated purpose of each of those branches are. Rudy Giuliani just said he has all the powers as stated under Article 2. That's true. Now, where's the lie? The lie is that Chuck Todd and all the liberals that you hear all week is that they're calling it nearly, and this is a quote, nearly unlimited powers. No, he has nearly unlimited powers in the executive branch.
Right.
And he actually said that, and I'm a little upset because Rudy Giuliani never corrects him by saying, whoa. When I say, sure, he has nearly unlimited powers, but only under the executive branch. And we've been telling you guys that for months. In fact, I'll even point out, I'm not sure if I said this on this show, but I definitely said it on Twitter, and I'll go ahead and say it on the show so you guys know, just for the record, that the President of the United States is, for all intents and purposes, the dictator of the executive branch. And about the only powers that he does not have that your average dictator around the world historically would have is he can't just round people up and start killing people that he doesn't like. That's literally almost the only power that he doesn't have. As a matter of fact, Rudy Giuliani will get into exactly what limits his power in subsequent questions here.
Okay, so play that again, then we'll go into the next one.
Yeah. He's the President of the United States. He has all the powers under Article 2.
Okay, so that's the part that libs are going to go crazy about, and they can't hold it. They can't
do you want to show the video?
Yep.
All right, from the memo in the New York Times. It remains our position that the president's actions here, by virtue of his position as the chief law enforcement officer, could neither constitutionally nor legally constitute obstruction because that would amount to him obstructing himself, and that he could, if he wished, terminate the inquiry or even exercise his power to pardon if so desired. As you heard me refer, it has echoes of Richard Nixon's infamous argument that he said that when the president does it, it is not illegal.
Okay, so I don't agree with that at all. I think that he just conflated two different things. So he has the power to he has control over the executive branch.
Correct.
He has control of the Department of Justice because they're under the executive branch. The reason, and I just kind of learned this from Rudy Giuliani, actually. I was wondering, what is with this thing about the Department of Justice having so much autonomy? They're supposed to be independent. They're not supposed to be meddled with by the president. Well, why are they even under the executive branch then, when we know from Article 2 from the Constitution that there's pretty much almost unfettered total power of the presidency over the entire executive branch? And it turns out that, well, let me back up a little bit. The reason it's different from what Chuck Todd just said, Chuck Todd's trying to conflate it to mean that Richard Nixon, which you may not remember this if you don't know, Richard Nixon, after he resigned, was interviewed in a very infamous interview with a guy. I can't remember his first name, but his last name was Frost, and you can actually watch the movie that was made about that interview called Frost versus Nixon, I think. And that movie pretty much portrays their version, the liberal version of that interview. But in that interview, the big plot twist that changed everything for Nixon, and this was after he already resigned, he wasn't even president anymore, was that he said that when the president does something, that makes it legal. It's never illegal if the president does it. And of course, Frost was like, what? Wait.
So you could murder a man out there in New York Times Square.
As long as you're the president. As long as you're the president. You mean Fifth Avenue?
I could murder a man on Fifth Avenue, and I still wouldn't lose supporters.
Okay, so Nixon isn't exactly right because everybody is under the law no matter what. I mean, like the president can't just take our guns away or whatever, because the law is the Second Amendment. You have the right to bear arms. So I think he's conflating these two things here. He's desperately, Chuck Todd, and believe me, all the liberals out there are desperately trying to conflate the statement that Giuliani makes, or actually it's the memo. It's all their attorneys. Right. And what Nixon said. So I wanted to point out that there is a distinction there. There is absolutely a distinction there, and they're making a leap by saying that that's what he's saying. Rudy Giuliani is just saying that he has control over the executive branch per the Article 2 of the Constitution.
Right, and I just want to put this in perspective. Why are they doing this and how to look at this? The left will always do what they do to separate Trump from his base. So they know for a fact that we, patriots, Americans, love the whole minimal powers. We like our presidents to not overreach and overstep, like Obama and lawlessness. They know we absolutely adhere to rule and law.
Right.
And so they'll come at you and say, look, that guy you voted for, he's lawless, man. He do whatever he wants.
Right,
He's a dictator, literally. Hitler.
Yeah.
Literally.
And I hate to use the word dictator because of what everybody what conjures up in your mind when you hear the word dictator. You think of like a Hitler, or even in communist dictators over the years, your Stalins and all that.
You got Maduro down there in Venezuela.
Right. And there are always these bad people that murder a lot of people. So the biggest difference between an actual historic dictator and what the president is allowed to do within the executive branch is that he can't just round up people and kill them. And Rudy Giuliani will get into that in a subsequent question here.
Is that the argument here, sir?
No, it isn't. First of all, I didn't make the argument, but I agree with most of it. As any lawyer, I probably would have organized it differently. I look at the obstruction part of the argument this way. He didn't obstruct, and we can win it on the facts. If a prosecutor is looking at an act such as, let's say, firing Comey, and there are 5 explanations for it, 4 of which are innocent, and the president has asserted each one of those positions, and one is obstructing the investigation, although he contradicted that and made clear he didn't in his interview with Lester Holt, which is unfortunately seized on by the special counsel selectively. That we don't have to get to the whole big constitutional argument, which will take a year to resolve.
Right.
So I would prefer to put emphasis on the fact he didn't do anything wrong. I mean, he didn't obstruct.
Okay.
And we're willing to sit there and argue that out with the special counsel if he has, an open mind about it.
I'm really glad he pointed out several times there that he's going to win on the facts. He didn't obstruct, and they're just going to hold that position, and they're going to defend it with the facts and win with the facts, because the alternative, if he didn't say that, would be putting into the minds of people that, well, it's not whether or not Trump did wrong, because we all know he did. It's whether or not the prosecution can prove their case. Kind of like, it's like the O.J. Simpson.
I was going straight O.J. O.J. was all over my mind right now.
Right. It's like, we all know he murdered Nicole Simpson and whoever.
Ron.
Oh,
my goodness,
whatever.
Ron Brown.
See, nobody even knows.
No, but the Brown family sued in civil court and won.
Right. Okay. So we all know he did it.
Right.
Just a matter of whether the Johnny Cochran defense is going to
If the glove don't fit,
Right.
you must acquit.
Is it going to hold water?
Right.
So anyway, so I'm glad he pointed out that the fact that he didn't collude is going to eventually lead us to everybody to conclude based on the facts.
Right.
That he's innocent.
I got this guy that I know really well that's a hardcore lib, and we do not discuss politics anymore because he gets too triggered.
Oh,
he
yeah.
gets very emotionally triggered by it. And I was talking to another friend. I said, hey, what if I told old boy, hey, all the evidence is all out, Trump's innocent? And he looked at me, and I looked back, and he said, he'd never believe that. No. If I did tell him that and I showed him that evidence, he would say immediately to me, "Nah, man."
You know what that sounds like? It sounds like
he got away with it. He got away with it.
If you die and go to heaven, and when you get there, because I've always wondered this, you go there and there's a giant, infinite archive of video that you can ascertain from every single instance in the entire universe, and you can replay the tape.
That seems like that might be a hellish place. I wouldn't want that.
Well, you don't have to access it if you don't want it. I'm just saying you can if you want to.
Right.
If that were the case, if your liberal friend died and went to heaven, and somebody said, "Come on, let's go find the evidence," and he had access to everything, he can relive the life of every suspect in the case.
He would shake his head and say, "No, man."
He would go.
True.
He would find something and say, "That's it.
Yeah.
That's the evidence right there." And you're like, "What? No. What are you talking about?" So, yeah, that sounds like,
unless I can get him to change his ways, Christianity and heaven is.
So he's not going to have access to that type of information anyway.
No,
he's not going to get the car, the swiper card.
Yeah, the swiper card.
He won't be able to get through the gate. Well, my point is that they don't care about the truth or facts or whatever.
Right.
They just have this. They feel like justice can't be done unless Trump is somehow no longer the president.
Right, and he would truly have to have a paradigm shift. He would go through a small little midlife crisis. He'd go through an identity crisis and then come out through his catabasis. He'll go into hell and then come out the back end a better man. But he doesn't have the stomach for that kind of thing.
You have to go through the anger of realizing that for pretty much your entire life you've been lied to.
Right.
You
believed, you fought for, and you believed with all your emotion and all your might for something that was so wrong. And I got an excellent example: Roe v. Wade.
Ooh.
The woman.
Yeah. Oh, how do you live the rest of your life
knowing that she does, and she's pro-life now.
Wow.
She's pro-life now.
She had the wool pulled over her eyes. Or did she actually hope that abortion became legal?
Or did she get in bed with the wrong people that promised her things that weren't true? I'm just saying, if you start making a deal with the devil, like the Clintons, the Soroses, all of them, and they start dumping money on you here and there to get some, like this David Hogg out there in Florida.
Oh, right, yeah.
This kid's life is almost, if this keeps going, his life will be almost as ruined as Monica Lewinsky.
But you know why he's never coming back? And that's just a prediction, and I could end up being totally wrong, and I hope that happens to me. But his mom is like some executive at CNN. He's not coming back. He ain't coming back.
Oh, he'll be news anchor there as soon as So.
Anyway, so back to Giuliani.
In a case that he didn't obstruct, or are you making a case that a president cannot obstruct justice?
Generalizing.
Well, I don't like, I'm a lawyer. I'm sort of a conservative lawyer in a legal sense. I don't like going to an argument we don't have to get to. You don't have to get to that argument. I can't imagine, I don't know exactly how the court would resolve that. You never want to say he can't ever, because you open too wide a floodgate. Mm-hmm. You might want to say he has very broad powers. And somebody who wants to question that under Article 2 has a big burden of showing that there is no innocent explanation for what he did. They just can't do that. So I would like to convince them to exercise some, constitutional restraint here.
Wow. So he's asking the prosecution to exercise restraint based on the fact that he does have broad powers here.
Constitutional restraint.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. But Article 2 is the Constitution, and it points out the broad powers of the president. And, of course, that leads some people to say, well, we don't live in a dictatorship. What are you talking about? Well, if you work in the executive branch, you're working in a dictatorship.
It's the exact same thing as you going to work tomorrow, walking up to your boss and telling him to go to hell.
Yeah.
Maybe take his coffee, dump it out on his desk, and say, "You can't tell me nothing.
Because I have rights.
I got freedom of speech, and I'm going to tell you what's on my mind.
This is how I express myself." And you unzip and you start all over the place and all over everything, all over his papers, his computer.
Showergate all over again.
Damn. Anyway, so you can't just say
you would be arrested. You would be fired. He might call the cops.
Well, you certainly should be allowed to get fired at that point.
You would think.
And yes,
just like McCabe was fired, just like Comey was fired.
Right.
And some articles, some recent news people are talking about possibly McCabe is looking at being under some indictment, prosecution coming at him. There's some serious things that are going to be coming at McCabe here pretty soon if he hasn't lawyered up. I think he has. He actually did lawyer up, and was that Comey? Comey lawyered up, and one of the lawyers that he got was that professor that he slipped the notes to. The professor that he slipped the notes to that he could leak to the New York Times.
Oh, I forgot about that.
So he hired him as his lawyer, so they can't get the professor because it's client-attorney privilege.
Well, we already destroyed that. You can just go raid the offices and take all the documents from the lawyers. That's what we do now, right?
Yeah,
that's a brave new world we're living in. All right, so Rudy Giuliani, he's going to get to just the limits. You're going to find out, guys, this is a philosophy course. For those of you watching, this is going to be your philosophy course with regards to the Enlightenment period, separation of powers and freedoms in America, and how you balance that with an all-powerful president. So let's get back to Giuliani here.
All right, let me ask this because it's also from the statement. Let's unpack this again. You say that he could terminate the inquiry. Does this mean he can terminate any federal investigation? Is that the argument here? Any federal investigation he can terminate?
Yeah, I mean, that
do we use?
Yeah. No, I mean, he's going to say, yeah.
That is pretty clear. I mean, the power of the Attorney General, he's a presidential appointee. When I was a U.S. attorney, I had the power I was appointed by President Reagan. Nobody ever attempted to terminate an investigation. It would have probably been a scandal of immense proportions unless I was being an idiot. So that's a very unrealistic thing. But if you're asking in a theoretical sense, I mean, it could lead to impeachment. It could lead to, I mean, if he terminated an investigation of himself, it could lead to all sorts of consequences.
But constitutionally, you're making the argument that you think constitutionally he could, is what you're saying.
I'm saying constitutionally it sure looks that way. I haven't made that argument.
Right.
You don't have to make that argument. That's not involved here. What's involved here is a simple exercise of constitutional power with very good reasons for it. And you can always come up, if you want to, with some non-innocent reason.
So one of the things he's saying here, the question was, is he allowed to terminate any federal investigation? Yes, these investigations, prosecutions, or whatever fall under the executive branch. But notice this is the first of several different times that Rudy Giuliani throws out there what's really stopping a president in a constitutional republic like ours, where we have a democratic process of going out there and voting every 4 years, of what is really restraining the president. And that is that it would be a scandal if you do that.
Yeah.
It would be, the whole country would be like, whoa, what are we doing here? And you see that that's kind of the only card that the left has been trying to play all this time. Every time Trump does something, they try to blow it up into a scandal.
But here's the thing, though. Trump's not under investigation.
Oh, that's what like Mueller's saying. No, we're not investigating. Or Comey has said, we're not investigating.
But you got F. Chuck, who is on Meet the Depressed. Sorry, I said Deface the Nation earlier.
Well, they're all the same,
Meet the Depressed.
pretty much.
Yeah.
They're just on different channels.
But F. Chuck is trying to steer this and say, well, can he stop an investigation into himself? Well, there isn't one into Donald Trump. There is no investigation in Donald Trump.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of it. They should have went that route, right? They should have just went full bore on that, because then it would have been even more of a scandal if he. And I do agree with the idea that you can't obstruct justice if you're the president, because the president has things to do and he's got to do what he's got to do, and He's part of the mechanism for making justice happen.
Right.
So one of his jobs is actually to obstruct justice legally by saying, I don't want you to prosecute. Did you know that our founding fathers, when they became president, Jefferson, I think George Washington, they actually did these things. They actually told the Justice Department, I want you to end the investigation of this. Or, hey, I want you to investigate. They actually did that back then. Now, all of a sudden, we're acting like the Department of Justice is its own branch of government separate from the executive branch, and that's absolutely not the case. But anyway.
Well, but that's all they've ever wanted, though, because if the Department of Justice could be its own entity, then definitely the Democrats or whoever owned them.
Under J. Edgar Hoover, it really was, and it was, as far as I'm concerned, we had lost our country at that point. To J. Edgar Hoover, who was the dictator at the time. But anyway.
Back to Rudy.
I mean, constitutionally, the president can order any investigation to be opened.
How about
any
open?
investigation.
Yeah,
if he says, you know what, I want Hillary Clinton prosecuted, I want her investigated, he can order that tomorrow.
And I'm going to say, yes, 100%. Absolutely.
I mean, he's the president. He's the dictator of the executive branch, the branch in which the Department of Justice is under.
Wanted to.
Yeah, but let's look at, for example, the IRS investigations of conservatives during the Obama administration, which never was fully investigated.
It was not.
I mean, that they had to cease that because the organizations went to court and showed they were being treated unfairly. So the president can't take away their personal constitutional rights.
Aha.
So the president said, I want it like Nixon had an enemies list.
Did you hear that?
So what you're
he's going to get more into the enemies list too. If let's play that.
If he called me up, I didn't work for Nixon, but if Nixon called me up and said, "Oh, you got to prosecute somebody on that enemies list," boy, we would have had a very serious issue. The person would not be prosecuted and could have gotten the case dismissed, and that would have just been another part of the articles of impeachment.
Okay, so this is key. This is absolutely key. The thing that the law that the president cannot break is the Bill of Rights.
Right.
If you have a right to a speedy trial, if you have a right to counsel, if you have a right to freedom of speech, if you have a right to bear arms, the president can't just call up Rudy Giuliani or prosecutor or Sessions or whoever and say, I need you to prosecute Brian Smith because I heard he was bearing arms, and we don't want any weapons in the hands of any lunatics with beards like that. I mean, come on.
Hey, that guy that made that documentary that set off Benghazi.
Okay.
You need to get him and throw the key.
Yeah. Okay.
Whatever happened to that guy?
So, as Rudy Giuliani points out, that individuals have certain rights that not even the president can violate.
Right.
He can't just open up a prosecution or an investigation into people that the act itself would end up curbing your rights in some way. And these are rights that are written into law. It can't be done. It cannot be done.
So if he said something like investigate Smith Radio because I don't like what they're saying.
Yeah, I don't like what they're saying. Instantly, and I'll tell you who would do it. Somebody say, yeah, but he's all powerful, Kerry. You just said he's a dictator. Yeah, but guess what? There's two other branches of government. In this case, the judicial branch would say, let me get this straight. So Smith Radio said something you don't like.
Yeah.
They're cussing. They're being racist or whatever you want to throw out there. We're throwing this out.
No, you can't. We need to shut them down.
This is called the First Amendment of the Bill of Rights.
They're on our list, though, our enemy list.
And what if the president said, yeah, but I'm the dictator, so you're going to do it? The judicial branch is going to go tell him to pound sand. Because one thing that's kind of interesting about the United States government is that each branch of government takes their power and their autonomy very seriously, and they get upset when another branch tries to tell them what to do.
Step on my toes.
Oh, the SCOTUS Supreme
toes.
Court is not going to be very nice if the president tries to order them to do something.
Could you imagine?
Oh, they would immediately do the opposite of what they wanted.
Probably.
In this case, guy with a beard talking crap on Smith Radio. Throw it out. They throw it out instantly, and then Brian walks free. Even though he's bearing arms, he's talking crap on Smith Radio. I mean, come on.
Just like that judge that ordered the scope in the Manafort case. Okay. I mean, he stepped up and he said, hey, Come on, man.
We know what you're doing here.
What's going on here? And even him as a judge could be made to feel like, you're making me out to be a fool here. I can't go along with this.
Not only are you making a fool out of him, but he absolutely is separate in power from the executive branch. So nothing the president could do. The president could literally do nothing to control that judge outside of blackmail or whatever, which, of course, is completely illegal.
Right.
So this is not going to happen. And as Giuliani pointed out for a second time now, when you try to do these things that's not really on the up and up constitutionally, who ends up having the last say? It's the people on the ground.
Right.
The people on the ground are going to end up uprising and calling this a scandal, and it's going to cause all kinds of political problems. These are political problems. Poll numbers going down, plummeting, all that kind of stuff. So anyway. Back to Rudy.
You talk about if you believe the president has sort of this overarching authority of the Justice Department, why are you asking the Justice Department to produce those papers to indicate how the investigation started? Why don't you order them to do it?
That's a very good question, Chuck, and I'll tell you what. Because we don't want the president to, first of all, when we say, when John and Jay argue that the president has that power, we understand that if the president exercised it, number one, it would be challenged. So that's a legal opinion. It's not a court decision. And we realize it would take the whole switch in public opinion that has been on the president's side would probably shift back. Mm-hmm. So we do not intend to exercise that power. And you make a very good case. The president could just say, give me those darn documents. You say the investigation is concluded. You say it produced no evidence for a criminal case. So then what the heck is this all about?
All right. So he said several things there. A third time there, he pointed out that by not exercising his right to say, give me those darn papers, it's actually hurting the opposition to Trump politically. It's causing Trump's poll numbers to go up. Why would he do? People, if you're watching this show right now,
Trump knows this.
This kinds of stuff frustrates all of us. It frustrates us. It frustrates you. It frustrates all of our friends who you're sharing this to, hopefully right now.
Yep.
And I get it. I'm frustrated too. I want to see all these people get locked up in the slammer. But the more they push on this, the more Trump's numbers go up and up and up. Why not just let his numbers go up? They're shooting themselves in the foot. And on the flip side, if Giuliani says, Mr. President, I think you should exercise your right to go march in there and say, give me those darn papers. And they're going to challenge it. That's one thing. Anything the president does, or anybody does, if somebody tried to repossess the studio here, Brian could say, you know what, I don't think the law's on your side. I think the law's on my side. Brian would then challenge that in court, and then a judge, which is a different branch of the government, will then decide. So if Trump marches in and tries to do something, his opposition's going to go straight to the judicial branch and say, hey, I don't think he's doing something legally. And they could be wrong. They could be totally wrong.
Take Donald Trump's Muslim ban.
Okay, yeah, that's a good. They challenged it.
They challenged it, took it all the way up to Supreme Court.
And made the other branch, there's your checks and balances right there. A different branch of the government has to come in and say, all right, let me hear both sides. And then he hears both sides, and then they have to make a judgment. And there is no influence by the executive branch because they're a totally separate branch of government. And so there's that. But then the political end of it, which is, sure, he could do that, but then they'll turn it into a scandal and his poll numbers will go down. So this is how our government works. It is a work of art. It is. This is the most brilliant government ever produced. We could have an all-powerful leader of the entire country and actually have no chance whatsoever to abuse power. There's just no way.
Unlike Putin.
Right. Well, Putin really does have no checks and balances. The system of checks and balances is still – the reason we're having these constitutional crises is because we have two problems. We have a fourth branch of government that's not supposed to be there, and that's the Department of Justice.
Right.
That's supposed to be under the executive branch. And somehow the left has not only convinced the public to accept it as a fourth branch of government, but somehow the government has also accepted this, which that needs to go away.
We got some problems.
And the other problem is that the real fourth estate, as our founders called it, is supposed to be the free press. And they have somehow have a monopolized stranglehold on the entire fake news network, like the whole country.
Well,
it's just inundated with fake news.
If you look at Trevor Loudon, who's from New Zealand, he's I think it's Real Zeal. At Real Zeal.
I could look it up real quick.
But Trevor Loudon wrote a book about this, The Enemies Within. And if you look at the things that he writes about and the things that he's discovered and uncovered, the communists literally took over the news, the press network, because they knew if they could control the narrative, if they could use their propaganda, because they knew propaganda worked for the people. If they could get a hold of the propaganda machine, that is the news media that's turned into some big giant.
Yeah, it's New Zeal Blog, NEWZEALBLOG. New Zeal Blog.
Right. And if you see what's happened today with the internet, with the TV, 24/7 news, I don't think that they knew that it was going to come to this, to where they would have the airwaves 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But I'm sure they were pushing for it in the very beginning with the newspapers, and getting hold of the New York Slimes and just creating a narrative for all the papers across the country. First paper out, New York Slimes, and then it just pushes all the way to the West Coast. And when they wake up in Los Angeles, the Los Angeles Slimes just repeats and regurgitates everything the New York Times did.
Right. It's interesting. Tim Pool said this a long time ago in a video. He kind of described what he does for a living. This was before he was even semi-famous, before anybody knew. I discovered him during the San Jose riots, and he was on the ground reporting from there. Other people who've known him longer than me, he actually got his first thrust of fame in the Occupy Wall Street.
Oh, right.
He actually lived in the shanty towns of Occupy Wall Street.
I couldn't do that.
He did. He was
oh my God.
And he was a liberal. He was reporting for
he's a lib?
Fusion. Oh, yeah. In fact, he still says, I try to be center, but I'm actually kind of center left.
Okay.
But anyway, I think it was Fusion. It was a blog or something called Fusion or something like that. But it was very, very liberal rag, and he was reporting for them, and then he just went kind of independent. But anyway, he pointed out in a video a long time ago where he described what he does for a living, and he pointed out that you would be shocked at how few people do what he does. Shocked. He said, you go to these events, and when it comes to people reporting on the ground, there's hardly anybody. I mean, there's like people that pick up their cell phone and record stuff, but they're not really professional, so they're not really sure the best way to capture something, which I do feel that it takes a certain amount of experience to figure out the best way to get the best angles, the best sound, the best quality, all that kind of stuff. And just be in the right place at the right time, I think, is really, really important. And if you have good instincts, you do that. But Tim Pool, being the professional that he is, would do this better than your average person just pulling their cell phone out of their pocket and start recording. But when it comes to people like him, I mean, I would put Laura Loomer maybe in his category, even though she's more of an activist style of ground reporter. You got your Lauren Southern, who's also a lot more along that line with Laura Loomer, where they're more activists than just objective journalists, where Tim Pool is just like, hey, I'm just trying to capture what's happening here. That's his thing. But he's it. You know, him and Laura and Lauren and Jack Posobiec on a lesser scale. I think and Jack would probably admit that he's a little bit on the activist side too, where he definitely interjects his opinion in there. And he brags about how he breaks the fourth wall. Do you know what that is?
Jeez, yeah.
Well, in movies, you break the fourth wall by talking directly to the camera.
Right.
Jack pointed out this phenomenon. I've never really thought of it this way, so I think his description is very good on this. And that is, he likes to interject himself into what's being covered. And he calls that breaking the fourth wall.
Okay.
So, for instance, let's say he's at a protest, and he's recording, he's covering it, and he himself starts chanting something. That would be breaking. He does it. He does it. That's breaking the fourth wall of journalism, and he prides himself on that. And we applaud him for it.
That's hysterical.
We applaud him for it because some of the stuff he does is comedy gold, and it. You know what it does? Instead of just having the camera play, because I've done this before. I mean, I've actually done what Tim Pool does, where you're just capturing what's happening. You're trying your hardest to be a wallflower. You're trying not to interject yourself into it. But sometimes you don't get the full scope of what's being covered unless you start prodding.
Yeah, you got to get going a little bit.
You got to get it going.
Stoke the fires.
You got to stoke the fires, or else you won't see what's really burning. Right? And so while I'm just sitting here capturing the smoldering ashes on the ground,
right.
Jack's like, well, I don't really know what's burning there. So he'll start poking it with a poker. And then you'll start to really see what it is that's burning.
Wow.
So I think the fourth wall, breaking it, is there is definitely some benefit to it, for sure. Absolutely.
Oh, that's awesome. I agree 100%.
It's not like a firefighter. You know the arsonist, the firefighter arsonist?
That sets the fire.
Yes. That's a little different.
Yeah, that's bad.
I'm not saying that Jack goes out there and starts the protest. The protest is already going to happen.
Full blown.
It's going to happen. Whereas your firefighter arsonist guy, it's like, man, I'm bored.
I need something to do. Not only that, but I love fire.
Let's light something up. And then they start a huge fire, big arson situation, and then they get to go and put it out.
We haven't had a 4-alarm in so long.
Oh, that's actually an issue. Yeah, there's
to not have a 4-alarm.
No, for what happens is the firebugs, they love fire so much that a profession in firefighting is attractive to them.
Oh,
so you end up having a little bit higher percentage of firebugs in the fire department than you would in the general public.
I was attracted at that one point in time.
I'm still a firebug.
Personal control.
But hey,
you got control.
Personal control. You get to a certain age, and that little when the devil comes up on the one shoulder and says, "Burn it, burn it," the angel kind of overrides it. You know.
Yeah.
A little bit better than back when we were kids.
Well, Barack Obama does not have the good angel. I'm just telling you.
Oh, he's got the bad angel, and then he looks the other side, and it's the other bad angel.
Yeah,
it's his evil twin brother.
Yeah.
So anyway.
So Barack Obama has a new book coming out here pretty soon. In the book, it says Obama was shell-shocked by Trump win, and as he was in the limousine, and Ben Rhodes was taking notes.
Oh, boy.
Barack Obama asked, what if we were wrong? In his new book.
That's got to be fake news.
This by Fox News reports President Barack Obama was verifiably shell-shocked in the wake of Donald Trump's election victory in 2016 and was even asked aides, well, what if we're wrong? As he struggled to come to terms with Hillary Clinton's defeat. Former advisor Ben Rhodes writes in a new memoir coming out in June. The book titled The World as It Is highlights efforts by Barack Obama's brain trust to reassure him that he would have won re-election if he were allowed to run for a third term.
There is a camp out there that believes that one of the reasons why Trump won is because of how poor, I'm going to try to avoid profanity here, how poor of a candidate Hillary Clinton was. And we thank the Democrat Party for that because maybe it's right. I mean, I can't discount the power of the incumbency.
Right.
It is what it is. It's a shame. There's a reason why Donald Trump did not run in 2012, and he seriously considered it. In fact, they started treating him as if he was going to run. Remember the press correspondence dinner where Barack Obama went up there and started blasting all over Trump while he sat there stone-faced
with his
and
wife?
upset?
Yeah,
in the audience, just fuming. You could see the steam coming out of Trump's ears, and rightfully so, because he didn't get a chance to say anything back. And I remember listening to Rush Limbaugh the next day saying, I would have advised against that. These are the worst things. He can't respond. He has to sit out there in the crowd with all the cameras on him without any way to respond to this thing. There's no upside to going to these things. I recommend never going to them. And guess what? 4 years later, he became president of the United States.
And now he doesn't go to them.
Well, not only that, but he's erasing the entire Obama legacy. Yes. Talk about sweet revenge. It's as if he's acting as if he ran in 2008 and made the Obama presidency never happen. It's like he's using a time machine here, folks. Right?
Yeah, the time continuum has been ripped. The flux capacitor is in full 1.21 gigawatt capacity.
88 miles an hour, the whole 9 yards. The whole 9 yards.
And so this is audio only, but this is by Rush Limbaugh on Friday.
So you know this new David Rhodes book? Obama's riding around a limousine in Peru after the election say, gee, what if we were wrong? David Rhodes actually wrote in this book, quoting Obama, I've got Trump set up well for the economy. I've got Trump set. Obama wouldn't know this kind of an economy if it slapped him in the ears. Trump is just, I mean, he's setting things on fire here. The economy is on fire, even the drive-by media. Look at this headline in the New York Times. We've run out of words to describe how good the jobs numbers are.
I can't believe they posted that.
The New
That's
York
amazing.
Times. Here, listen to this. Obama, Indiana, June 1st.
Oh, this is very, very important, folks. Very, very important to juxtapose Trump and Obama. Obama said, I really set Trump up. Okay,
right.
Let's go back to 2016, somewhere in the summer of 2016, during the election, during the run-up, where Obama goes to Elkhart, Indiana, which I had a good friend that lived there, and I've actually been to Elkhart, Indiana. Every corner is a propane sales store. Elkhart, Indiana.
Maybe there's a lot of market for that.
It is a spot on the map, a tiny spot, but the capital of trailer parks, trailer manufacturing in the world.
Okay. They actually manufacture them.
Right. Elkhart, Indiana,
wow.
they make trailers.
CBS special questions for Obama. What about the jobs we've lost? Are they coming back, Mr. President?
For those folks who've lost their job right now because a plant went down to Mexico, that isn't going to make you feel better. And so what we have to do is to make sure that folks are trained for the jobs that are coming in now, because some of those jobs of the past are just not going to come back. And when somebody says, like the person you just mentioned, who I'm not going to advertise
Trump,
for, that he's going to bring all these jobs back, well, how exactly are you going to do that? What are you going to do? There's no answer to it. He just says, well, I'm going to negotiate a better deal. Well, how exactly are you going to negotiate that? What magic wand do you have? And usually the answer is he doesn't have an answer.
Yeah, capitalism and the American people. 18,000 manufacturing jobs back.
You know, he said something on the other side of the commercial. I remember that. I was listening to it live. And I don't want to take credit for it. I want to give Rush credit because I don't want to steal anybody's stuff. That audio clip, when compared to what we know now, at the time, I had no choice but to kind of accept it. It's like a paradigm that he had created. I don't even think he created it. I think it's a paradigm that's kind of come along with the progress of technology, and it just seemed like with the pay and the amount it costs to pay people to manufacture stuff in America, I felt like maybe Obama was right. But when you compare it to what we know today, it goes to show you how clueless he was. He had no idea. He had no idea how to get jobs back. And he just chalked it up to
magic wand.
Well, a magic wand, but also the paradigm that we live in a day and age where in America we just can't do the manufacturing. We have to recruit the Chinese.
Yeah, Chinese cheap labor.
The sweatshops, what do they call the child labor, where they have the little kids assembling stuff.
And,
and we'll pay them a couple pennies per day, and we'll be able to get our $10,000 iPhones for only $900, and we'll just pay monthly, and we'll all have our iPhones. And it seemed like that was logical. But then you got Trump doing what he's doing. It's like Trump knew. And he's not the only one that knew. It's not like Trump's like this magical person that he knows.
Right. He's just the only one that's willing to do it. All these other businessmen, they're not giving up their life for this.
And Trump almost didn't do it. It almost seemed like it wasn't worth it. I was in the limo right behind Trump, following him with the Secret Service with Keith Schiller, and several other staffers in the back seat. And I could tell in their voice that they were wondering if this is all worth it.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, and I almost cut them off and said, "Guys,
wake up!
You're gonna win!" Let me tell you something. I don't know if you guys remember this. I don't expect you to remember this, but I was living it, so I do remember it. The week he came to Cincinnati and I drove the motorcade, that was a bad week. It was one of those. It was like the third week in a row where the left was like, Trump's worst week ever. And this was like 3 weeks of calling it his worst week ever. And I could tell they were down in the dumps. They were that Cincinnati rally was a turning point because 22,000 people showed up.
Was that down there at the Coliseum?
Downtown. That was the one that you went to and scoped with your family.
Yeah, me and my daughters, we scoped around. We scoped at the very beginning. I actually stopped women, like beautiful young women, and then I chose older, seasoned women, especially with husbands. Mm-hmm. And I just flat out asked them.
It was cool.
I flat out asked them, so how do you feel about the whole grabbing the posse? What's going on with that? Wow. How do you feel about that?
Yeah.
A lot of them shook their heads. I don't believe it. That's just crazy. Don't mean nothing.
They didn't
whatever.
care.
They all shrugged it off. They did not care.
That's why we needed Obama. We needed Obama for 8 years in order for people to be in enough pain about the status of America,
right?
To be able to let the dumb stuff go. We needed voters to let that dumb stuff go, and in the past they never would have. And by the way, a lot of people don't remember this. I actually was a little worried for Trump on the first primary debate. It was the first time he debated anywhere. He was doing stump speeches and stuff.
Well, did all the reporters say, well, this is it, you count him out on this one?
Well, I remember Frank Luntz said that.
Luntz did, yeah.
You're going to see the end of Trump after today. I was just going strictly off of my own observation and my own analysis, and I was using my observed experiences from the campaigns of the past. And I remember thinking, wow, he's really coming off angry. He's doing this screaming, and he's just angry. And I said, I don't think that's going to fly. I don't think it's going to fly. I think you're going to see a dip in his poll numbers.
Well, we were also judging that and gauging that by everything we've known in the past.
That's what I mean. I was just basing it on everything that I've seen since, back in the Clinton days. I just felt like, that's just not what you normally see at these debates. You see a very measured response, very almost robotic, scripted. And he was emotional, and he was pointing and screaming into the camera, and I thought it was a little bit too. I just didn't think it was going to fly. Well, guess what? It turns out that people were so angry at what Obama has done.
So angry. Literally.
That they were happy. Angry. They were so happy that Trump conducted himself that way.
Well, they were so angry with Bush, too.
Yeah, the whole thing. They were so angry at everybody.
16 years of anger all built up.
Well, some people were actually blaming Bush for Obama. Like his last couple of years, because he never fought back.
No.
He never fought back. It was 5 straight years. From 2003 through the end of 2008, it was a nonstop beating of the drum of hate Bush. Bush lied, people died, nonstop. And he never, ever responded. He was like, I got to hold the dignity of the office and blah, blah, blah. And it turns out that it worked. The propaganda worked on the people. They were unhappy with America. They were not unhappy with the Bush presidency. And they thought that, we're going to finally get our hope and change through the first black president. And what they failed to realize, they ignored the fact that he was a full-blown red diaper baby communist. Full-blown.
Right.
And that's why he was such a bad president. Not because he was black. Yes, because he was Democrat. It was because he was a communist. And communism fails every time it works, or every time it's tried. But we needed that in order to get Trump. We would not have gotten a President Trump without that. So it's kind of interesting. And it works out in the end because we have a president today that is doing the things necessary to erase the previous president, including possibly, we don't know yet, but possibly sending people to prison.
Well, I mean, if he ordered an investigation into Hillary Clinton, he certainly could do that.
Here's the reason why I don't really care too much. I think it would be good that justice gets served because I think it's important for Americans to see wrongdoers and lawbreakers get the just punishment that they deserve. And if it turns out that, and we know that Hillary did actually break laws, that it's important for us to see that those behaviors go punished. Because if not, you end up with a really disenfranchised public, right?
Oh, absolutely.
They're going to feel like...
I mean, why do you think people were chanting, lock her up, lock her up? There's
right.
a reason.
That's a campaign promise.
Yes.
Which...
he hasn't fulfilled that one yet, but he is very, very busy.
He's busy, but I think it was one of the debates. I can't remember if it was the second one or the third one, where he lays into how he's going after her. Do you remember that?
Yes, I did.
He said, because you'd be in jail, that kind of stuff.
So anyway, so now we're getting into the numbers, getting into Trump. Okay, you just heard what Obama said about the economy and joking and poking fun. Folks, remember that. Don't ever let that voice in what Obama stood for, what he was and what he did, what he said and what he acted upon. You could clearly, it was like transforming, going back 2 years. It was like the nightmares coming back all over again, listening to him talk. I didn't think I'd ever have to play him talking. But now that they're trying to attempt to hijack or to minimalize Donald Trump's economy by saying that this is Barack Obama, I really set him up. I really set Trump up real good, real good. Well, you hear the audio of Obama making fun of Trump, saying, I'm bringing back jobs, manufacturing jobs. 18,000 jobs brought back in the month of May. 18,000. And so, and Obama's beside himself, obviously. But here's the other soundbite, audio only, from Rush Limbaugh on the decade, the story of the decade.
Story of the decade. How one guy came into the White House from outside the ruling class environs, enacted free market common sense reforms, flipped the economy on its head in a year. This is not the president that all of these experts in the media and the establishment wanted or expected. They're flabbergasted. We've run out of words to describe how good the jobs numbers are. New York Times.
I can't believe that they said that. I have to admit, we're not surprised, but I am a little bit surprised at how fast and how much.
Yeah, I'm shocked at how fast. I knew it was going to go up. We both said it. We said it's going to take 1 year. These policies put in place in 2017 will then fruit will bear itself in 2018.
Well, and there's a couple reasons why it's so fast and why it seems to be going with like increased momentum, and that is because Trump could never do this by himself. He can't just say, we're going to enact all these policies and then everything's going to just go crazy and go awesome and nobody's going to have anything to say about it. He can't do it himself. What happens, it's like this leading by example thing. He tells people what he would like to see America look like and how he's going to conduct himself in office and what he plans on doing, what his promises are. And the first initial reaction is wow, if this is true, the economy's going to go great. As a business owner, I need to start setting myself up for that. And so you end up with these business owners that start to get a little bit more aggressive, start looking to hire people to grow and to kind of get a leg up on their competition based on what they're hoping policies will be under Trump. Now, where does it go crazy? Where it goes crazy is where they start to see Trump follow through on promises. Once they start to see their president enact the kind of policies and push for the kinds of laws and executive orders and whatever it takes that he promised, that everybody knows is going to make the economy boom, that's when the business owners who were kind of going off of a hope and a prayer that President Trump ends up being a good president,
right?
That's when they start to realize, oh my God, this is happening.
In a world gone mad.
This is going to happen. And if this is going to happen, I better, if I don't get out in front, my competition's going to bury me.
Right.
And they start to go nuts. And then you got these other companies that are outside of America. They're like, I'd like to come back to America or whatever, or I'd like to open up a business in America or whatever, but I don't know. And then when they see what's actually happening with under Trump, they're like, I need to stop everything, get all hands on deck and make this happen, get them in America. So you get these companies coming back into America. You have companies that are already in America trying to ramp up just to stay ahead of competition. And that's where you have this exponential effect going. And that's why now you're looking at so low unemployment, it's almost like, though we didn't know that numbers this low were even possible.
Well, and speaking about that, Rush made the comment, so I'm not, if somebody listened to him on Friday, I'm not trying to steal it, but the comment was that 3.8% tick down unemployment, 3.8% unemployment. A lot of people call that like the general baseline. Like that's pretty much full employment because...
Yeah, they call it statistical zero unemployment, statistically.
Right, because you're going to have knuckleheads who don't want to work, people that are maybe still living at home.
Right.
Or whatever.
Like that 30-year-old that got sued.
The guy kicked his parents sued him and got him kicked out the house.
Right. So, and I believe he was not working. And so you're going to have people like that are going to be unemployed. I mean, three out of 100, or maybe a little less than 4 out of 100 unemployed. That's pretty low. That means if you're in a crowd of 25 people, less than one of them is unemployed on average, and that's just a total cross section. Poor, rich, all the above, everybody, ethnicities, all the way across the board. Man, woman. Even maybe down to 16. I don't know what the statistics go by. Like, do you have to be 18, or I don't know, or is it anybody over 16?
Well, they're saying over 16.
Oh wow,
16 over, yeah.
Because I know a lot of school age kids, juniors and seniors in high school. A lot of them don't ever get jobs.
No, and I don't know if you remember during Barack Obama's days, the unemployment for the black community, the black America, the folks in the inner cities skyrocketed under Obama.
Wow.
There was just no work to be had.
Yeah.
People raising minimum wages, so then McDonald's goes and changes it, says, okay, we're going all total automated. You order yourself at your own kiosk, and we don't even need these employees. The people shift and change, and with all the regulations and all the money these companies had to spend during Barack Obama's reign, they had to cut it. They had to cut them out, and first people they get cut, minimum wage, first entry, low-skilled individuals.
Yeah, remember Barack Obama talking about how we're just not going to have tellers anymore because it got replaced by the ATM. You know, that kind of stuff. Seriously, I mean, he was setting up a new paradigm. Like, listen, people, you're going to have to accept the fact that you're not going to be able to get work. I mean, that was the paradigm he was creating.
You're going to have to accept the fact that, and by the way, in that town hall meeting, it was a black man that asked Barack Obama, hey, I'm a steel worker, out of a job.
Right.
When are we getting these jobs back?
For steel worker?
And Obama said, hey, ain't coming back, but we gotta train you on the jobs that are coming in.
And what did he suggest? Any or?
Just training program, government training programs.
Oh gosh, what was it? Was it Bernie Sanders? Somebody said we should have you just get hired by the government if you can't get a job.
Yes, Bernie Sanders did say that, and ironically, that you mentioned Donald Trump has cut federal payroll.
Oh yeah,
24,000 federal employees.
That's a lot.
Cut. Not only that, but I know because the run-up during Barack Obama, that's all he wanted was federal employees.
I think Trump may be the only politician in my lifetime that has made it his policy to spend as little of the budget as possible and then just hold on to it for a surplus. Like give it back. Every politician I've ever heard of, all the way down to the tiniest little municipal level, is like, whoa, if we don't spend this, we lose it.
And we know it.
We got to spend this.
In the machine shop that I was in the Air Force, we had a budget. And we had to spend every dime of that budget every single year.
That's where you get the $130,000 toilet seat.
And that's where you get a small machine shop of about, I think there might have been 10 of us.
Okay.
With 10 of the largest, biggest, most giant Snap-on toolboxes.
And you told me that the cost of Snap-on tools for your average Joe is prohibitively expensive.
Thousands of dollars for just a toolbox. Thousands. And then the level of tooling that we had. We had so much tooling that if you just used a drill, a lot of people just throw it away.
Oh, it was a disposable drill.
Yeah, just get another drill. It's brand new. You don't need to sharpen that thing. We got 500 more in there. We got to use them up.
Oh, you just use it for one fastener and throw it away.
Throw it away. Get it
one fastener. One fastener.
I know how this works, and I've talked with a good, close family member of ours.
Okay.
And
he's into the budgeting office.
Yeah, he says that. I said, why is this taking so long? He's like, yeah, that's what we're trying to cut down.
And on how long it takes?
Because it takes so long to get things done because there's so many different levels of the bureaucracy. Even for GE to get there was one, I don't know if it's GE or somebody, but they the bid for the job, everybody came in at like $500 million for the job. And one of the companies came in, say GE, and said, we'll do the job. Everybody was around $500 million. Mm-hmm. GE came in and said $250 million.
Half of that.
Half.
Okay.
They secured the budget. Done. You guys won. Okay, good. First week, they submitted a document that is a legal document within the government. Okay. They filled out another form and said, we had a small accounting error. We will be at $500 million.
Oh, that is so scandalous. That's scandalous. You should be like...
He says that happens all the time.
So you just you just lowball the hell out of it, and then you get it, and then you come back and say, oh, yeah, I was just kidding, man.
Hey, there was jokes, man.
Yeah, it's going to really be way more than that, way more than that.
There were just jokes.
Not only that, but part of the money that they have it comes from the government. Like, for instance, if they can lowball competitors, it's because they're subsidized by the very entity that's going to pay them anyway. Well,
the company I'm saying in question, it wasn't being subsidized, but did pull the wool out of your eyes. Something.
Oh man, whatever. They're just all a bunch of corrupt people. And the problem is, you can't ever get. Well, I shouldn't say that because a friend, our deep state friend, he's part of the actual personnel whose job it is to secure the actual bids and everything. So I don't want to blast too much on the fact that government's not good at contracting. Okay, well,
think about it. The government goes to war, but in order to win the war, there are all kinds of eggs that are being broken.
Okay.
You cannot apply that same ideology, the same thinking, that same theory when trying to help people out of welfare.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I totally.
It's one thing. It's a reason. It's the reason why we made Donald Trump the president of the United States. Not just Donald Trump, but the president of the United States is the head of the military. That is the federal government's job, and that should never be privatized ever. That's their job. Get it done. Make it happen. Now, with that same thinking involved, it's tough for you to make contractual decisions as a government employee. It's because who are you trying to help in the sense of our family member? Who is he trying to help? Is he really trying to help the American people? Do you have the American people's best interest at heart? And does everybody? Because that's who you're working for.
Right. And I do believe that our friend or family member, whoever that might be,
he or she,
it's
no judging here.
Yeah, might have a pronoun situation there, gender fluid, maybe. He might be upset if he hears that. Oh, it's she. Anyway, I know that this person has our best interest, the taxpayer. I really do.
I believe so. Well, this individual's a good person when it comes to that kind of thing.
Yes,
just naturally.
I think that the head's screwed on straight there. But I would say that that's an exception, not the rule.
Right. I care. Well, some of the folks that he's talked about, that he's worked for in the past. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
And would never be fired. Never be fired.
Isn't it hard to maintain discipline when you have a blank check? I mean, there might be some accounting, like if your boss is like, whoa, I don't want you spending that much on that contract. There might be some, whatever.
Well, not only that, but using your same theory, blank checks tend to attract folks who like to spend blank checks.
Oh, that was the firefighter, the arsonist firefighter theory. Yes, it attracts the wrong person. Imagine the power I get to have if I could write a blank check. And imagine my brother. He's in that business.
You get them all in
I
there.
might be able to sign the check for him.
Oh, James Comey's brother was a CPA for the Clinton Foundation, then opened up a construction company and did nothing but government renovations of all government buildings through Barack Obama.
Wow. And he wasn't even in the construction business.
No, he's CPA for the Clintons.
Oh, wow.
Come on, man.
Playing middleman. Oh,
Right.
I could subcontract it. Wait, what do you do? I need somebody to build this skyscraper over here for government building in D.C. Do you have any contracting experience? Well,
yeah, I got
a lot of people.
I got these subs.
I got this thing called a phone.
Yeah, I got the phone.
I could call them up.
I got a phone and a pen.
Oh, goodness. Anyway.
So the month of May, folks, the month of May, they was expected to add 188,000 jobs in the month of May. That's what was expected. 50,000 extra blowout. It was 223,000. May be revised, may not be, whatever the case is. That's the numbers that are out. Donald Trump tweeted out early in the morning, oh, man, can't wait for these jobs numbers to come out. And the mainstream media is taking that as he did something criminal. It's a crime because you're tipping off businesses on what they should do. And it's insider trading. Only politicians are allowed insider trading. And we're not allowed to tell, like, the low-life people that run businesses about that stuff. So they ran with that, trying to derail him, and it was just mud in their eye. It continues to make them look the fool again and again and again. So big numbers. This by Fox News. Way above expectations, 3.8% unemployment. Black unemployment plummets to record lows. Now get this in mind, folks. You got to get the head on straight on this one. Why do we keep harping on black unemployment? Because conservative white Americans love to see everybody working. It doesn't matter what color you are, doesn't matter what gender you are, everybody working. We love everybody to work, and we're not mad about that whatsoever.
Right. And people like to work.
Yeah, well, not only that,
gives
but
you that sense of dignity.
Yeah, builds up your confidence.
Right.
And you could go out and you can do, you know what, I can do more. I bet I can do more. I bet I can be better than that.
And for those people who have been working their whole life or working for a long time listening to this, are like, yeah, easy for you to say, I'd rather be home sitting around. Guys,
do it for a couple of weeks and see how your mind gets.
Weeks? Are you kidding me? Guys, if you've been unemployed for a long period of time, trust me, you start to have a little bit of dignity issues, especially if you're a man. I know that there's liberals out there that are like, gender roles, and they get really upset about that. They get triggered when you talk about gender roles. But I will tell you right now that I'm a man, and I can speak on behalf of men.
I'm just going to trust you on that.
By saying, you just have to take my word for it.
I'll take your word.
That you leave a man unemployed for long enough, and all of a sudden and I don't mean unemployed as, he doesn't clock in for the man every day. I mean doing something to better society somehow or contribute to society in some way, shape, or form. You take that away from a guy for, you said a couple weeks. I promise you within 6 months you're going to be like, what is the meaning of life?
Just a personal story of mine. Back in 2010, 2011, the job that I had was eliminated, and I was laid off. Barack Obama promised 99 weeks of unemployment.
Right.
And I was so angry. I had a little bit of victimization in there, and the company, and strife. And I said, you know what? Screw you, I'm going home. And I went home anyways. Well, my daughters were very little, maybe 2 and 4, or 3 and 4, somewhere real young. Mm-hmm. 08 to 2011, that'd have been Bailey, so that'd have been 3 going on 4.
Yeah, I feel like that she was really young.
Right.
Really young.
And then Kara, she might have just been getting out of diapers. Anyway, so the wife said, no, I'll get a job. Don't you worry. And she actually got a job really fast, right away. Okay. I said, no, you're not. Don't.
So you became a housewife.
It isn't, folks. It's an absolute fact. I'd wake up. The wife would we'd put her lunch together. She'd take her lunch to work. She had the car. We only had one car.
Okay.
A lot of times I'd drive her, drop her off, so I could have the car for the day. But I had planned out the breakfast for the little kiddies.
Wow.
Then they would take their nap at 11 o'clock, and then we would go for an afternoon adventure for a bike ride, and then come back. If I had the car, we'd go back, get the wife, and come back. Otherwise, I'd have dinner ready.
So you were doing the full-blown Michael Keaton, Mr. Mom situation.
100%. 100%. And I'm going to tell you right now, I love my daughters. I love that opportunity I had to spend time I got to spend with them. But when it was maybe a little over a year, when we came back to Cincinnati in 2012, and the issues that be, anyways, the unemployment was over, and I didn't know it was over.
Oh.
So I had a wake-up call. Hey, it's over.
Okay.
So I had to go out and get a job. And you guys know, if you've been following the Scopes or you've been following the show, my background is a machinist. I worked on aircraft in the Air Force as a machinist. Carrie worked on the Harrier in the Marine Corps. And once we left the military, we were banned for life for ever touching another aircraft.
Right. That was society. By the way,
that's a whole other story, but there's
we're allowed to, but yeah.
Tongue-in-cheek, folks.
We can't go and get a job working on aircraft without getting the okay from a multi-year...
The man.
Well, multi-year stint in the liberal academia.
Right.
Which is like, what? We spent 4 years working on fighters and whatever.
Come on, man. So to get back into the machine shop, I'd been out of it for many, many years, but that is my forte. That's what I do. That's what I do now. And I took a job. I was so... folks, I had issues. I had some issues coming back into the workforce.
You don't have to apologize to them. They know.
I didn't even... I accepted the fact that I was qualified to drive and pick up patients that were debilitated and couldn't drive, and I would deliver them to the chiropractor.
Okay. Almost like an Uber for a day.
Yeah, for the whole day an Uber.
Okay.
That's what I resided. But it very, very quickly, after about, I was laid off for a little over a year, and I did that job for maybe about 4 to 8 weeks, somewhere, so just a couple of months. And very quickly I said, you know what? This is a joke.
Okay.
So I finally got my resume together, cleaned it up.
There you go.
Got back in the machine shop, and I'm back on my feet again, 6 years later?
Oh, yeah.
4 years later. 4 years, 2012 to 2018. So, 2012, 14. Yeah, that's when I got the job, got back in the machine shop.
So feel like you're contributing to society now?
Oh, I do now. I am full-fledged. We're inventing things at my job. I'm trying to convince my company to patent them so that nobody can take them from us. It's just a blast. I love what I do now, and I have the confidence.
Oh, yeah.
And knowing that what I'm doing is making a difference. Anyway, so a long story, personal one about me. Sorry, folks, but I just had to tell you that I went through it. I know how you feel. I felt the same way. Here's what I found.
All right.
So we've got black unemployment, the lowest ever. Now, here's the shocker, folks. Under Obama, black unemployment was in the double digits, easily. Now we've got black employment in the month of April was at 6.6%. A new low and a new record to 5.9%, and that happened in 1 month. 1 month, it went from 6.6 to 5.9. The Asian unemployment is at 2.9%. Average hourly earnings. This is the voting base right here, folks. Average hourly earnings increased 2.7% from a year earlier. More than projected, while the jobless rate fell 3.8. matching April of 2000 as the lowest since 1969. I'm just telling you, folks, these numbers are just unbelievable. This is being reported by Bloomberg.
Almost 50 years ago?
Yeah, Bloomberg.
Wow.
And I'm telling you, this is what wins elections. I don't care.
You can't lose an election with numbers like this.
I don't care if you like Trump. I don't care if you hate his attitude. Matter of fact, the individual that we were talking about earlier complained about Donald Trump's mouth, his attitude. Like he would say these things. It's just that when it comes out of his mouth, whenever he speaks, I just can't.
There's
take
a feeling of hyper importance on the dignity of the office.
Right, and then he also said,
"My nose is up in the air."
They made the comment of, he's just the way he comes off and he talks to people and he's got this arrogance and all this. And I said,
boy,
so
that's just jealousy.
I said, so
or envy.
Right. I said, so what do you think about what's going on? And this is before the jobs report came out. This is over Memorial Day weekend. And he said to me, you know what? I got to tip my hats off to him. He's doing a pretty damn good job.
Well, he's making a lot of money, this person we're talking about.
This individual we're talking about in the market.
Making a lot of money from, market. Stocks. Stocks were going up. My dad is heavily involved in the stock market, and he's just beside himself. He's like, wow, this is a boondoggle. So.
And this is awesome. This is where people see these things and they get excited. They're back to work. The women who either work or stay at home, take care of the kiddies, whatever that be, they're excited because they can see more of the paycheck that their husband's bringing home. They're able to buy things, able to do things, able to plan more, to get out, enjoy more, maybe buy a second car. I'm telling you, these are the things that people feel and see, and it supersedes all the rhetoric of all the BS that the Democrats have. And the Democrats, what do the Democrats have? This is the Democrat campaign.
Oh, wow.
That's the new Democrat campaign slogan, stronger together, as Nancy Pelosi hugs a tattooed head and face embodied MS-13 gang member.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. If you want to know, these aren't just your Bloods and Crips style gangs. These guys are absolute full-blown terrorists. They, Donald Trump referred to them as an animal.
Yes.
Or animals, I should say. And the thing is their behavior is way worse than any animal I know of. I mean, I guess if you were somewhere where large predators like, the cats of prey in the African desert or whatever, the plains where you could actually get mauled by a lion, maybe you're a little bit more at risk of life and limb in that circumstance. But generally, you don't want to be caught out unprotected where MS-13 is out and about, because the stuff that you will have done to you is right on par with what would happen to you if a lion got a hold of you. Because, I mean, it's like torture and stuff. Oh, anyway. So, and that's what the left is embracing for this election cycle when it comes to supporting, they're representatives of a constituency. And it turns out the Democrats seem to be representing MS-13. That's what it really boils down to.
Yes, it clearly seems to be that. And have at it, folks. Keep going. Do whatever you're doing that you think is working for you is actually helping and working for us. We are in the right. Donald Trump is in the clear, in the right. Things are going the right direction for this country since a time that I can't remember. Since before a time I can't remember. And so, as we talked about the media, the mainstream media, here's some of the headlines. Breaking from GOP orthodox, Trump increasingly deciding winners and losers in the economy. And so this is I've got to show you this picture. So they wrote this article, and here is the picture in this article of it is flames from steam and exhaust rising from the Suncoke Jewel plant in Oakland, Virginia, where coal is burned to make coke, which is used to manufacture steel.
Coke is kind of like coal, right?
Right.
It's like a type of coal that burns so hot and so efficiently that you can melt steel with it, and that's how they produce steel at these steel factories.
And it was a late at night picture, very eerily, as if something is burning down.
Well, it looks like hell.
Yes, it looks like hell. Because all you see is flames coming out of this.
Orange flames with smoke and just really gritty and grimy, kind of looking like something from the 50s industrial, or actually the turn of the 20th century.
Yes.
That kind of pre-union, labor union type of environment.
So they try to use, and I wonder, I mean, I don't know if they're this smart, but I wonder. He said Donald Trump trying to pick winners and losers. Is he playing on us because we said that's what Obama did and he picked all losers?
Yeah, and I don't agree with them saying that he's picking winners and losers.
Correct. No,
I think that he's setting up an environment where the people that can win will. Whereas I believe that Obama was directly picking winners and losers, kind of like your Solyndras, where he just decides, I'm just going to completely purchase an entire factory. Whereas Trump creating an environment for the benefit of somebody that's running a business, I don't think that's directly picking winners and losers. You're creating an environment where the good people will thrive, and I think that's what capitalism's all about.
Right. It's when you say making an environment available, it's like building a giant stadium and brand new grass on the field and everything perfect. The best of the best will come.
Are you saying if you build it, they will come?
Yes.
Okay. Because that was part of the movie.
That was part of the movie.
The Field of Dreams, actually.
This is going to blow your mind, folks. TheHill.com. Title of the article, Hill.com. Trump, economy probably the best U.S. has ever had.
Well, yeah. I mean, is it possible that it could have been better at some time?
So they quote Trump. They make that the headline, the title. They quote Trump by saying probably the best the U.S. has ever had, which I love the fact that they made that the headline, the title, and then can't really refute much of it when you get into it.
Well, it's interesting that I have some family members that don't shy away from talking about their childhood.
Oh, good.
And I always thought, based on my own observations from like movies and shows and cartoons or whatnot, that I thought that the 50s was like the best generation of anybody's lifetime that was alive when I was alive, right? Because it was the end of World War II, and with the spoils of war and, the win, you get the big victory. And so times were great in America in the 50s. Well, I mean, it turns out that some of my older baby boomer family members have said that the 60s, nothing could touch the 60s. And it's interesting that you said that unemployment was its lowest since, did you say 1969?
There's some numbers that they go all the way back to 69 that have never been touched.
Right, and if you, I think CNN's been doing documentaries lately, and they're good as far as entertainment purposes, and there is a lot of good information in there, but you have to have a very discerning, you have to process it yourself and come to your own. Well, because it's chock full of very subtle propaganda. So as long as you recognize it and you discard the propaganda, I think it's worth watching for me. But anyway, they have this new documentary called 1968.
Okay.
And it's 4 2-hour episodes. And one's called winter, then one's called spring, one's called summer, and one's called fall. And that's...
Wow.
Yeah. And, it's all horrible. It's RFK getting assassinated. Martin Luther King gets assassinated. It was a really
68 was a rough year.
Rough year.
Damn.
That was the year that brought on Ashbury Hate Ashbury. Is it Hate Ashbury, where the hippies came out. It was because of the crazy turmoil, and the baby boomers were going nuts and causing ruckus, and there was rioting and all this kind of crazy stuff in 68. Well, they said that 68 was the first year that just caused America to pretty much from 68 until Ronald Reagan got elected, it was all downhill.
Wow.
But according to people that have told me that lived through that era, pretty much the entire decade of the 60s up till 68 when everything went to hell in a handbasket. That was an awesome decade. I believe that people are going to forget all about that when Trump's presidency's over. I think it's going to be the teens are going to be the decade. Was it the late teens and early 20s will be the boom era for America.
That's funny that you say Ronald Reagan, because I remember I think it was Governor Jerry Brown's father.
Okay,
I made the comment that
it's like royalty.
Yeah, well, I made a comment that Jerry Brown had been governor before. It was his father that was governor.
Okay, and I know you've said that before.
And they had to run him out.
Okay,
of
so
office.
It wasn't the same person.
However,
his father. Okay,
his father, Jerry Brown himself, and his sister, all communist, all socialist, all into politics, all incestuous, like that. And Reagan took the governorship of California in 1967.
Interesting.
So that might have been a turning point for California. And then 68, and then a turning point. It took him, another decade to come into the presidency.
Okay.
So I could definitely see that. But yeah, no, I'm very excited. Folks, you know, if you listen to the show, I am pro-capitalism in the sense I am so far capitalist, laissez-faire, hands-off, that if you are a business owner of a restaurant and you wish to put a sign in the window that says whites only or blacks only, if that's what you choose to do, I believe there should be no law for you to be and tell the world how stupid you are. I think you should be allowed to do that.
Right, and I actually differ a little bit with Brian on that, simply because when you look at the dynamic of it, it depends on the size of the minority. Like, is it possible? Like, let's just say Cheviot, which is a really small town. It's like 1 square mile in Cincinnati. Let's just take that by itself. If every restaurant in that whole town had a whites only, and let's just say, for argument purposes, that the population of blacks in Cheviot during that time is 2%, very, very tiny. All of a sudden, you're like, well, are we to expect one of those black entrepreneurs to open up a restaurant, and then who's going to come frequent it? You know what I mean? So I think that there's a point at which a whites only sign on enough businesses end up being really oppressive to whatever minority is being ostracized at that point.
And this happens in fairy tale land. That would never happen.
Well, at one point, the argument was that was the problem at one point. But you're right as far as
we've had a cultural
numbers
shift.
now.
We've had a total cultural shift.
Well, now that the numbers across the board are a lot higher, I mean, what if you're a black motorist and you decide you're going to take your family on a cross country trip, and you run out of gas in a town that has all gas stations that say whites only? That's a problem. That could be a major catastrophe. So,
well, there's a restaurant a bar that said on the front door. It said, "We support America and the troops, and if you don't love America, don't come in here."
Oh, that's definitely allowed. Yeah, you should be totally allowed.
Well, the local news was in a total uproar, and this is not cool. How dare you say that?
That should be totally considered freedom of speech.
Right. No, I agree, 100%. So we're talking about Trump's economy and the dichotomy, the two differences between Barack Obama and Donald Trump. And Barack Obama says that I left Trump in a good way to allow this to happen. And in a sense, he did not, because his idea, if Trump did exactly what Obama wanted him to do, this would be a complete disaster. Trump has done the opposite of everything Obama has done.
For the most part, yeah.
So for Obama to say, I set Trump up in a good way, is a complete asinine.
That's a good way to put it.
It's an absolute lie.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I mean, is he making the argument that if nobody was running the president, that the economy would be doing just as well?
Pretty much.
Or if Hillary took over?
Pretty much.
He's crazy.
Because
He's crazy.
Because the big decisions that Trump has made, there are newspapers across the country right now reporting the tax cuts are working already.
And they should, because businesses try to get a leg up on their competition by going kind of like getting a head start. They want to jump off the starting line early. So if they anticipate more money coming in the future, they might do some investing today, even before the tax cuts. They're just anticipating it.
Right. When Donald Trump said last year, 2017, you buy new equipment this year, you write it off this year. Mm-hmm. The company that I worked for bought 3 laser machines.
But I would argue that even if Trump didn't go that far, they may have said, you know what, let's take a hit this year. Then when next year comes and we get those tax cuts, we'll be ahead of the competition.
And business optimism, optimism.
That's huge.
It is the highest it has ever been since it's ever been recorded. And it's like 96% optimistic on the next. And that's what the companies, they lay out game plans for the next year.
I can give you a real world anecdotal anecdotal story. When I was landscaping for my stepdad, we were running around putting in these new landscapes, and this was during the housing boom. And we were putting in new landscapes in all these different developments all over the west side of town. And alongside of us, almost everywhere we went, the person or company building the house was Dennis Ott. He was building houses. He was building them so fast. Initially, he wasn't even selling them yet. He knew that they were going to sell. Later on, he was building houses that were already sold. He was building them as fast as he could. He's like, I can't even build these fast enough. He was hiring tons of illegal immigrants. Tons. Oh. And I was like, where are these people from? They're clearly not from Cincinnati at all. Like, where are these people from? And of course, they're gone now. Like totally gone. Like not even in the city. But anyway, check this out. That was business optimism, right?
Right.
All of a sudden, we're out there, we're installing landscapes, and all of a sudden, out of the blue, I noticed that there were developments that were only halfway done. Dennis Ott was not building any buildings. He was not building any houses at all. And this was in 2006, 2007, really early.
People were still buying that. People were still excited then.
There were new people in the house building business that were just getting in saying, man, I got to get my piece of the pie.
It's a family member that we know, a closer family member to you than me, but she purchased a house for $150,000 and subsequently couldn't sell it later on down the road, and it was only worth maybe $80,000, $90,000, $100,000.
Totally.
Wound up having to redo all kinds of flooring and make the place look a lot better, and they still got hosed on it.
You're going to take a bath on that. So to finish up the Dennis Ott thing, though, we were like, really? People are making money hand over fist? And he's literally, I'm telling you, there were lots where he had built. Like there's this one subdivision he had where there were supposed to be 30 houses put up. There were 6 houses, and all the rest of the lots were just field. And you got the streets were there and everything. You know, the electric boxes, they were there. There's just electric
just
boxes.
waiting for a house to be put down.
And so I'm like, really? He only has 6 houses here. He's not going to build any more. Stopped. He laid everybody off. And I'm like, wow, this is weird. Fast forward 2 years, and man, you know what? He saw it coming. Maybe there was a little bit of clairvoyance on that. By the way, he lives in probably the largest mansion in the city now because he shorted the housing market. By stopping building when he did, he shorted the housing market. He made millions.
Wow. I had guys working for me in construction out in Los Angeles, and in 2008, had to let people go. And they all said, we're going to Vegas. Vegas is the place to make the money.
No.
And let me tell you, dozens and dozens of guys that I knew, Hispanics, some illegal, some not illegal, went to Vegas to work on the houses in Vegas, and Vegas got hit harder than it.
They got hit so the hardest.
Hard.
Yeah.
The wife and I'd meet your dad up in Vegas when we lived out in L.A.
Yeah.
And coming into Vegas, you passed what could amount to maybe a small city.
Oh, that was City Center, right?
Yeah.
And it was not even done.
Of emptiness.
Oh, it was bad.
And it was like,
it was bad.
Wow.
There's still,
that ain't even done
you
yet.
know, to this day, there is I don't know what it was supposed to end up being. I thought it was going to be one of these mega hotel things, hotel casinos. My dad says he thinks it's going to be a condo. It was stopped. They stopped building it in 2009.
He showed it to me when we went out there. Dude, that was apocalyptic. That was so creepy.
To this day, it's still mothballed.
No.
It still hasn't recovered. Now, I have to admit, Trump economy, I think somebody might want to go ahead and take a shot, roll the dice on it and go ahead and go for it. And what's the point of all these stories? The point is I want to illustrate what it means to have business optimism. With Dennis Ott, he felt the pessimism coming on early. He was like,
apparently he pulled the e-brake.
He pulled the e-brake, but by shorting the housing market when he did, because he left probably another $1 million on the table by stopping that early. But by leaving the $1 million on the table and stopping early, where he could have made maybe another $1 million, he wasn't sure. He stopped in 2006. The housing crisis could have started in 2007. It really started in 2008 and really hit everybody super hard in 2009. But he stopped 1 year shy, but it's better to stop 1 year shy than 1 year late. And
when you get caught in the middle of that.
Yeah, you remember the saying? I think it was Warren Buffett. He said, "You know who's swimming without their swimming trunks when the tide goes out." Yeah, and that's what happened. The tide went out.
That's a good call. I like that.
He saw who was swimming without their bathing trunks. So that was.
So Dennis Ott saw the tide.
He put his shorts back on because they were off. They were way up. He had illegals up on roofs. He was the one. I was working on this one landscape. I got to tell you this story. These houses are made out of brick. For those of you guys that live in Arizona, a brick is.
Those of you in California, we are not talking about anything stucco.
No stucco.
No stucco.
So these Mexican workers were, and they may have been Honduras, I don't know, Central American, whatever. They had scaffolding up next to the framed house, wooden framed house, and this was going to be a brick house, so it's going to be brick outside. And it went up 2 stories, 3 stories. So they had this scaffolding up, and they had an entire pallet of bricks.
No, man.
Whole pallet, right? Yeah. And so the one guy was on the ground floor, and the one guy went up 1 level, and he stood there on the upper level. And the guy would take 2 bricks and throw them straight up over his head.
No!
And he wouldn't look. He would just grab 2 and throw. The guy, and they would come up right to the guy's hands.
Yeah.
Right to his hands. And he would grab them and stack them. And he was throwing 2 bricks at a time as fast as you can grab 2 bricks and throw them. So it was like 2 throw, 2 throw, 2 throw. And the guy 1 story up in the scaffolding up 1 floor was like grab, stack, grab, stack, grab, stack. They had that entire pallet on the first floor, the first floor, or it should be second floor, right? And I was like, wow, that's amazing. When he got, actually it was 2/3 of it. He left 1/3 on the ground.
Probably, I'm be worried it would break the scaffolding.
Oh, it was
pretty
good
heavy.
scaffolding. Guy goes up to the 3rd level. Guy gets on the 2nd level. He does it again with half of that stack.
Oh, my goodness.
Within minutes, they had 1/3 of the stack on the ground, 1/3 on the 2nd floor, and 1/3 on the 3rd floor of the scaffolding. Within minutes.
That's amazing.
And, and if you ever seen those guys roof, human beings do not roof. No. It's like fully automatic gun. Right. It's crazy.
Oh, before I forget, just on that note, I'm not switching topics. We're going to finish up the Trump economy. Before I forget.
Yeah, we're in the 3rd hour, by the way.
There was an argument made to Tucker Carlson, and Tucker didn't catch this, that a Democrat running for office said that these automatic weapons, they're just like a fully automatic nail gun. If somebody's been working with a hammer, you just don't give them a fully automatic nail gun. And like I'm saying, and he went on, I'm like, whoa, time out.
Tucker normally catches stuff like that.
You're
telling me Tucker let that go?
Gary, I know you have a hell of a nail gun because I've used it.
It's the fuel cell one. The one that you don't plug it in. You don't put an air hose on it. It's the fuel cell.
I had multiple air guns. out in L.A. in construction, whether it be a brad nail or a nail gun, what framing nail, whatever it be, Carrie, what class, what instructional video, what person sat you down and taught you how to use a nail gun?
Nobody. I think there
so
may
how
have
did you
been...
successfully transition from a hammer to a nail? Carrie, we can't have people transitioning from baseball bats and knives to guns. We just can't have that, Carrie. They don't know how.
Yeah, I think there may have been some paper that said make sure you do this to get it to operate properly. But basically, I bought some nails and had a piece of scrap wood, tried it a couple times and said, oh, okay, that's how you do it.
Now, I'm not saying that people shouldn't, if they want a gun, go to gun safety courses. That's awesome. Please do it all day long.
Right.
But this Democrat compared people going from he didn't say
from a hammer to
he didn't say it.
Fully functional
nail gun.
Okay.
He was equating that from like a handgun to an AR-15.
Well, actually, an AR-15 is much safer than a handgun. Did you hear about the FBI agent? Oh, I'm so mad. I should have sent you the video.
Oh, no, I got the video. Oh, I saw that, dumbass. Sorry, folks.
The FBI agent.
I saw that.
So I guess we'll have to describe it verbally since you don't have it hooked up, or no? I'll just describe it. So, you know what we do on Saturdays? Sometimes we go and party. Could be at a wedding. Could be at the club. Whatever. But, you know, people party on Saturdays. Well, apparently so do FBI agents. Oh, you got it.
Apparently he do.
Oh, rewind it to the beginning. All right, so you'll get to see this. So this is an FBI agent.
I don't know about the sound. We'll keep the sound down. You don't need the sound.
Okay, well, we can just talk through it. But anyway, so this is an FBI agent. You can flip it over now, can't you? Okay, so this is an FBI agent at a party, and apparently he's he thinks he's doing some crazy dance moves here. Now watch what happens here. He's
getting jiggy
does
with it.
a backflip. His gun falls out, and when he goes to pick it up, it fires. Did you see that?
Yep, I saw it fire. It hit.
So stop and rewind it real quick so we can. Well, actually, you can just hit the. Just there you go. So this is a FBI agent who is armed, and he's at a party. Now there's the gun. You see, he did the backflip. During the backflip, his gun flew out. Which, by the way, what kind of holster do you have that causes your gun to fly out on a backflip?
It's stuck. It's in the back of his pants.
Okay, so that's problem number one.
It's not even in a holster. It's in his pants.
Okay, well, that's problem number one. Okay, so the gun comes out.
Right there.
Now, he reaches down to grab it quickly, which right off the bat, it's like, what are you so insecure about? If you're an FBI agent, sometimes you're going to be armed. Why it's flying out is question number one. But then he grabs it quickly as if he needs to. As if maybe I can grab it before anybody. Now, watch when Brian presses play here. You're going to see it, the muzzle flash. Yeah, right there. It actually fires. So when he reached down to grab that, he grabbed it by the trigger, apparently. Now, it looks like all is fine, but actually he did hit somebody.
Yes. Reportedly, the man is safe and will live, but he did hit a man.
Yeah, it looks like based on the way the gun was oriented, he probably would have shot somebody either in the leg or the foot.
Probably. Because
it was laying flat. As soon as he grabbed it, it fired immediately. He kind of walked off like, sorry.
He threw his hands in the air.
Didn't mean to do that. We're all good. Everybody's good. Sorry about that. And I'm just like, what a moron. Guys, as our good friend and producer,
oh, yeah.
Mr. Producer?
Mr. Producer.
Or is it Mr.
Yeah,
Vanessa?
Mr. Producer.
That's your wife is Mr. Producer.
Mr.
Moderator.
Moderator.
As Mr. Moderator has said, this is not making us look good.
No.
And it was her that said that, right? That said this is not making us look good?
Sure.
Okay. Maybe it was her. If it was, all credit to you. Vessi tweets. The thing is you have to, I believe it was her, because I said, with freedom to bear arms comes great responsibility.
Absolutely, 100%.
What is this? First of all, if you're armed and you think that it's going to create a situation if you do tumbling, you might want to
gymnastics.
You might want to avoid. Or if you're going to do the gymnastics, why don't you go ahead and stow that firearm somewhere else other than your persons? Or if you do have a holster, or if you do have if you're bearing arms, make sure that it's properly stowed away.
It looked like a 9mm where you actually had to rack it.
Well, not in that case. That was definitely a chambered round.
Yes. Why would you have a chambered round?
Well,
I've got a 9mm, and I don't.
I think cops are required. I think they're required to have one chambered.
Really? Because I never chamber a round, ever.
Well, yeah, you wouldn't. And I'm going to be honest with you. If I had a handgun, and I don't even have a handgun, I got the AR-15, and that's it. I'm not chambering around.
At least you think it's an AR-15. It might be something else.
Yeah, it's an AR-15.
No, we're not sure what it is.
Why wouldn't you be sure?
No, you don't want the government knowing that.
Well, the government... Damn.
I'm just playing, folks. It's all good. We ain't doxing Carrie.
But even the AR-15, the only time I'm chambering around is when the muzzle is pointed down a firing range.
Okay, yeah.
I'm not cocking the bolt back until I'm ready to fire for the most part.
Right. No,
but
absolutely.
it also has the big switch on it that lets you put on safe. Now, I'm aware that there's some handguns out there that have a weird safety. I actually did fire a .45 where the safety is right here.
No.
Oh, yeah. When you grab onto the pistol grip, you're depressing a button. It's a button that's shaped like this, so when you put your hand on it, it depresses it, and that takes the safety off. Oh. So if you're holding it like this, the safety's off.
Well, but so every time I'm holding it, the safety's automatically off?
Yeah. Well, as long as you're squeezing it.
Well,
a little bit. You only needed to have a teeny bit of pressure.
The two guns that I have, the one that's a 38 and one that's 9, both of them are very similar, and it's the thumb latch on the side.
Okay.
You literally have to, and all it does is it locks it, the barrel from being, or the
right
thing from being.
Well, just to let you know, we have firearm safety rules that we learned in the Marine Corps that I believe that if everybody were to adhere to, nobody would ever get shot accidentally, or you would never shoot somebody on purpose that you didn't mean to shoot. All right. So I think 3 of those 4 rules were violated by this FBI agent. One was keep your fingers straight and off the trigger until you're ready to fire. Keep your fingers, keep your weapon on safe until you're ready to fire. And the one is treat every weapon as if it were loaded. I don't necessarily think that he treated it as if it were not loaded. That would be like looking down the barrel. And
you only look down the barrel and if you think something's in there.
Or pointed at somebody like, what? It ain't loaded, man. It ain't loaded.
Kid in high school did that to another kid. Pulled it and blew the side of his face out.
Yeah. It ain't loaded. Bang.
He lived. I've seen him recently, 20 years later. He's still got that whole side of his neck that's like melted skin.
Oh, the grafting.
The grafting.
Oh, my God.
It's entirely rebuilt jaw and everything. Yeah, but Mr. Moderator said that she has a Glock 19. A gun which I would like to own one day. I've looked at it a lot.
No safety.
I did not know that it had no safety. I don't know if that's standard, but she carries it in a very firm holster. Good for you.
Well, she said she doesn't do gymnastics, but you never know when you're dancing with a man that really knows what he's doing. He could flip you.
Yeah.
You ever see that in dancing where they do?
I have. That's crazy nonsense.
Like the 50s dances with the poodle skirts.
It's craziness. Guns flailing around everywhere.
Vanessa would have guns flying in every direction.
Bullets going everywhere.
My goodness. Wow.
Whew.
Anyway,
so let's wrap this up real quick. We're all done with this. This by investors.com. Bad news for Dems. Household income hits all-time high under Trump, and he's getting credit for it. Yeah, the article was that. Literally, the article was to bash Trump. But they're making fun of the Democrats, trying to get them to do something, saying, yo, Democrats, he's getting credit for this.
What's wrong with you guys? You guys are really dropping the ball, letting him get credit for that.
Yep. So median household income has been steadily increasing under Trump, rising from $59,000 in January 2017 to to 61,000 last month, according to Sittner Research, which tracks income on a monthly basis using census data. This also means that household income is now higher than it's been in at least 50 years with adjusting for inflation.
I believe that. That makes sense.
New milestones in jobs reports signal a bustling economy. New York Times? What? New York Times? And this was something I just threw in there real quick. I don't know if you guys have been watching world news or anything. Did you hear about what's going on in Italy?
Italy?
Yeah,
no.
over in Italy. They just elected a populist nationalist. And,
what?
Oh, yeah, what is right?
That sounds like Mussolini.
No, it's like a Trump.
Okay. He was a nationalist and a populist?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Mussolini.
Mussolini was a dictator socialist and got hung out to dry.
Yeah, you know why? Because he decided, and he did this out of fear for his own country's safety, he decided to align with Germany.
Yeah, Hitler. Hitler absolutely loved Mussolini and thought so much of him until he started hanging out with him and realized, wow,
but
I got so much over this guy.
Even though Mussolini was a nationalist, but it's a fascist. His government was what you would say is the definition of fascism. I mean, he kind of invented it for the most part. It was the first fascist government for the most part. And what is fascism? It's where it's like an authoritarian, where you're kind of kept in your place by a ruler. Is fascism, which is why the Democrats are the fascists today.
Right.
So,
absolutely.
Anyway.
But so this is what's going on in Italy. They're also revolting against the euro dollar. They're revolting against the European Union. And what was it?
Wow, that's almost like a Brexit type thing.
Oh, and the markets. That's why I put this in here, because the markets are going up. In Italy, the markets are favoring this new guy who's kind of like a Trump effect.
Okay.
Kind of like a Brexit.
All right.
And Brexit and now Italy revolting against the EU, the European Union, with their power grip and their power hold. It was all to take every nation in Europe and redistribute all the nation's wealth to whoever they wanted to go to.
Which pretty much means Germany
gets host.
Yeah, paying for everybody.
Yeah, if you're in Germany, you got to be hating it. Just hating it.
Right.
Anyway, so we've got some great things going on. And then here, this was news this week, where Trump had a meeting with Kim Jong-un's boy, one of his guys, and Trump said, yeah, it's back on. Summit is on June 12th. We're going to get together. I did call it off, but they started answering the phone on a regular basis.
This kind of reminds me of, when you're dating that girl and you need to play hard to get.
Right.
So you walk away.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden she's like, wait a minute, we could try to work this out. And you're like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Immediately. I don't know if Kim took to the Twitter or he no, please.
He felt it slipping through his fingers. He went out of his way to make this work.
He said, anywhere, anytime, you name the place. Anywhere, I'll be there.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, John Bolton singing in the background.
John Bolton.
I mean, Michael Bolton.
Hey, if John Bolton was singing in the background, I could totally see that. With his push broom. Oh, man. That push broom he's got. Oh, my gosh. Anyway, so.
It's the janitor from the Pink Panther. He had that big nose and he had the big push broom mustache that covered his whole mouth.
Yeah, that is John Bolton. You don't even see what his mouth looks like. Anyway.
So, and then we got the Russian hoax probe. I guess you guys might have heard about that this week. The numbers on that. Did you hear about the numbers?
On the Russia hoax probe. Oh, yeah, 17 million. You put 17 million. Before the official number came out, somebody was kicking around 20 million, which, by the way, is not that far off from what the actual price was. So that was a pretty good guess, whoever came up with the 20 million. And why? Why are we doing this? And when it comes to Democrats and the deep state allies,
it's like how you said an open check.
Well, there's the open check, but also regardless of what the price was going to end up being or is going to end up being, it probably will definitely go over $20 million. It's like we will spare no expense to reverse what happened in 2016.
Right, at all cost.
It's so
we
sad.
can't spend money fast enough to redo.
Un-American.
Yes, 100% un-American. The report there was a report that had to be filed, and they filed the report, the yearly report. The report indicates that the SCO, the Special Counsel's Office, spent $4.5 million in the period from October of 2017 to March, the end of March of 2018. While the Department of Justice helped out, and they spent money, the DOJ spent money to help Mueller, they spent $5.4 million in the same time frame, and yielding a total of $9.982 million, almost $10 million in 6 months.
Bad.
The largest line item as during the last period was personal compensation and benefits. Personal compensation and benefits amounting to $2.7 million. Second was rent, communications, and utilities. Almost $900,000. I almost said $900 million. $900,000 for rent, communications, and utilities.
Why are they doing this?
The Special Counsel's Office spent over $500,000 on travel.
Why can't they just call a spade a spade? Say, look, we know what you're doing. You're just upset, and you're also trying to hide your own guilt of your criminal activity during the Obama administration. But we're putting an end to this. And like Giuliani said in his interview on Deface the Nation, is it Meet the Depressed?
Meet the Depressed. Yeah, Meet the Depressed.
Meet the Depressed was that, this is the price that we're allowing Democrats to pay in order for us to have Trump's numbers go through the roof.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that this is what has to happen for Trump to his numbers to just soar.
Giuliani said we could put an end to this constitutionally. But number one, it's going to be challenged, and then we're going to have an opinion of a court, which we don't even need to do.
Right.
And number two, all that the numbers that have been increasing for Trump are going to reverse, and it's going to cause his numbers to go down. So why not just let them spend their $20 million? And it's almost like $20 million worth of ads for Trump.
Fair enough.
Really,
it's sad. Sad to say. But the economy is booming so well that hopefully we'll absorb this and get rid of this. But the over $500,000, over $500,000 on travel, the vast majority of which was spent temporary duty relocation of Department of Justice employees to detail to the Special Counsel's Office.
So if you live in Cincinnati and you're working on this case, you're going to get a temporary duty relocation to the SCO, which is the Special Counsel's Office, for the duration of this investigation.
Yeah, you'll get, the relocation of DOJ employees. Say you need some assistance. They will send you DOJ employees to work with you out of the Hyatt Regency because that's look.
or whatever it costs, whatever in moving costs, closing costs, whatever, to literally move from whatever city you live in to wherever the Special Counsel Office city is, which I'm assuming is D.C.
Right.
That's just crazy.
Look, $2.7 million in rent.
Yeah, that's probably Hyatt Regency.
The hell you renting?
I feel like they got an under-the-table deal with some not manufacturers, but owners of hotel chains and whatnot.
With the written out whole hotels?
Well, no, I'm just saying that you're giving them business by having them come and stay at your place, at your
I don't
hotel.
think you're getting a deal if you just spent $2.7 million in 6 months.
Well, what's not a deal? I mean, they have a blank check. I mean, what are they worried they're going to run out of money? Seriously.
Apparently not. So the total bill's up close to over $17 million.
20 or 17 million. And it's going to go up at least 3 more million. So the $20 million dollar range sounded like whoever said that really knew what they were talking about, because it's
really close.
Minimum going to go to 20 million, minimum. Because all the people that were relocated are going to have to relocate back to their city of origin, and that's going to cost money. And they're going to pay for that. They're going to reimburse them for all that.
Costs a lot of money.
Wow.
So racism in America. Racism comes home to America. Thank you.
I'm so glad that you're bringing this up, because I tweeted out I'm a very rare controversial tweet. Normally, I tweet out things that nobody is going to bat an eye at, except for your triggered liberals. But I had a controversial tweet today where some right-wingers, some Trump supporters were like, Carrie, what are you talking about here? Yeah. And it involves racism.
Is that the one that
Well, Scott Adams replied to the initial one, and then
there it is right there.
Yeah, so I ended up having to explain myself on the show. There was a follow-up question, so anyway, so what were you going to say? Is this what it's about? So Roseanne.
Yeah, we're talking about it.
All right. So
racism in America. Democrats desperate to bring back racism because it's the only way that they can hold on to what base they have left in their mind, because they felt that, and that's really strange. I spoke with he's a retired union worker, black old man, black old guy, who's now security at the company I work at. And he's wealthy. He says he does this just to get out of the house. He's part-time. He's a happy-go-lucky old guy. And I was talking to him the other day, and I said, hey, this whole racism thing, what was it like growing up? There was racism everywhere?
Really? What did he say?
Oh, yeah, it was everywhere.
Okay.
I said, well, my mom's almost she's retired. She's past retirement.
She's a baby boomer.
Yeah, she's 5 years past retirement. And
well, I can do some math.
That is, and I said, so you're about her age. And he's like, well, she would have gone to school with my older sister, but I was right behind him. And I said, well, what school did you go to? He said, I went to Withrow.
Oh, okay.
I said, really? My mom went to Withrow.
So it's possible they could have crossed paths.
Yes,
okay.
And he said it was 50-50, black and white in Withrow, and we never had a black prom queen.
Okay.
What?
Don't they have to vote for that?
Yeah. All the people vote for that.
Okay. All right.
I said,
So Withrow was 50-50
That's what he said back in the 60s. And
wow.
I just didn't, I didn't get, that was his only complaint in a sense. He did bring up the fact that local restaurants, he said that.
Did they have a white-only sign, like you said?
He said that when he went into local restaurant here has a sandwich called a Big Boy.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
That he said when he went there that they would escort them and have to sit in the back. I didn't know that. I don't know anything about that. Wow. Okay, I understand that. It ain't cool.
That's not cool, and I never heard that before, but I'm not going to call him a liar.
Right. Well, I called my mom, and I said, hey, back when you were in high school, was there a lot of racism?
Mm-hmm.
She said, oh, it was there. I was there.
Okay.
I said, okay. What was it? Did black kids have to sit in the back of the class? Oh, no. Were there like separate bathrooms, whites only, black? No.
Water fountains?
Oh, Brian. No, Brian. No. None of that.
Segregated buses?
No.
No.
I said, so what was shit? It was in the air. I said, what do you mean it was in the air? She said, well, we just knew it was there. And we knew people didn't want them there. And we knew we had this feeling that they didn't want to be, we didn't want. I'm like, I hate to say this, but the two of you together are making me feel like the media and your parents and the narrative got you all ate up under LBJ.
So whites were told that blacks don't like them, and blacks were told that whites don't like them by media, government, whatever. And so they all had this tension in the air.
I said, did anybody get beat up? Were there fighting,
race riots?
She said, oh, no, God, no. No, there was no violence. I said, what in the Sam hell's going on?
This kind of reminds me of my experience at West High.
Yes.
That was probably about, I say 60-40 because I really, really didn't feel like it was anywhere quite close to 50-50. But it certainly wasn't like the normal percentage of the rest of the population. It was more of a black population at West High than the normal population of Cincinnati, let's say. So that being said, I like to call it 40-60, but it might have even been as much as 55-45, but I don't think it was quite at that 50-50 range. But
somebody needs to help me out. Mom, if you're listening and what I just said is not right
it's
some
not
way or
accurate.
somehow because you didn't speak much about it and I had to ask a whole lot of questions, you got to straighten me out here because I'm not seeing it. I mean, maybe you saw it on TV, and that's also the thing about the gun violence with the school shootings. We have less school shootings now than ever before. It's just that they take one school shooting and they stretch it for months.
Right.
I hate to say this, and this may be true. Under LBJ, y'all were sold a bill of goods that one violent situation in Selma was the entire America.
Right. I do believe that what you just said was totally accurate. I think that there's a lot of suggestion of racism towards younger kids or high school or even younger student populations, and they just take the adults' word for it, and then they get inundated with black and white picture or movies of cops in Alabama using the fire hose on the black protesters.
Well, that happened at every school.
Right, and it's like I honestly think a lot of this is just in people's heads.
Well, and tell me I'm wrong when George H. Bush and George W. Bush marched with Barack Obama over the bridge with the black leaders, the Jesse Jacksons,
the Elijah
Al Sharpton,
Cummings, and all them.
And the media edited the white people out.
Oh, that's terrible.
That was in the past few years, folks. I'm trying to go all the way back to LBJ time, back in the 50s and 60s. Help me out here.
I saw a documentary. There was the people that were getting arrested for defying the Jim Crow laws down in the Deep South. A large percentage of them were actually white. They were white Northerners who decided they've had enough of this and they're going to go march alongside with the black protesters, and they were all getting arrested. The documentary actually pointed this out. They even showed the mug shots in the documentary, and I think it was a special on Selma. It was like a documentary because remember the movie had just come out.
Right.
The movie had just come out, and a documentary was available to watch on. It was on PBS or whatever, and I decided to watch it, and I was like, wow, this is kind of interesting. So there was a big population of white people who were not subject to these laws that felt like they were unfair to people of color, and so they decided to stand in solidarity with them. And the documentary actually concluded that nothing would have ever gotten changed if it wasn't for the fact that everybody was uniting around the civil rights movement. It couldn't have been done by just people of color. It had to be a united effort, and that's what happened.
And I'll tell you how racist my mom was. She likes Motown.
Oh, there you go.
And the more that I talk to her about music and the more of the music that she likes, I think my musical taste comes from my mom.
Well, when
because
rap music,
I love the old Motown. I love the old jazz and blues.
Oh,
I love all that stuff.
You love the blues. And Brian, I don't know, did we ever talk about this on the show? I think it's fascinating how you found it. Well, we both found it fascinating, but I really didn't know much about it until you pointed out to me that blues sound that we hear in like Led Zeppelin and rock and roll in general was being played in the 30s and early 40s and whatnot in the South by black people in the street.
Talk about Google that one, Robert Johnson.
Yeah,
Robert Johnson.
Like,
Google
wow.
that one.
I think it was you that actually played for me a clip from the 30s of just some black guy playing blues, rock and roll, whatever. And it sounded exactly, almost ripped chord for chord, note by note, as something you would hear Led Zeppelin play.
The song is called
30.
The song is called Hangman. If you ever hear Led Zeppelin, it's a phenomenal song. Hangman. Save me from the gallows pole.
Yeah.
He says, my sister, come help me. My mother, come help me. And in the song, he actually says, my sister's coming down here to help me. Maybe you and her can work something out to get me released.
Saved from the gallows pole.
Save me from the gallows pole. All on and on and on and on. All these things. It was this old black guy down in the South.
Way back
being
in the day.
abused by the Democrats in the slavery days, singing about, I didn't do nothing wrong, but I'm going to the gallows pole, and would you bring me, save me from the gallows pole? And Zeppelin took that, and
he heard it and decided to cover it. It was like a cover song.
Yeah, but
he took it as his own, and
when Jimmy Page gets on the strings, it's just.
I mean, he does a good job.
And then Robert Plant with the voice, you just can't. I'm sorry, man.
Well, he's got a good voice, but I mean, that's a cover band.
True that.
It's a cover band. Okay, so maybe they put their own little flair in.
Have you ever heard the band Five Finger Death Punch?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you hear the new album they got coming out?
That's coming? No,
Yeah.
Probably not.
It's called Cover. They're all cover songs.
All of them?
That's all that's being played on the radio right now by this band. They're all cover songs.
Oh, that's not good.
Now, Zeppelin took a little bit of a step with it and pushed it and really made it their own.
Did they? Come on, man. When I heard that gallows pole or hangman or whatever, I was like, that's the same.
They paid them. They paid them.
Eventually. All right.
The Rolling Stones, same thing. Okay. Some of the greatest music ever.
Yeah, it's just cover music
from
Memphis.
Yeah, American.
Straight up Memphis. So anyway, and by the way, it's not a coincidence that Elvis is from Memphis. All right, let's get to race relations again, because I really need to talk about this big time. Do you need to play the clip about it? Or?
This is a whole summary of everything that just happened.
With the Roseanne thing?
Yeah.
Okay, because I wanted to get into that. But go ahead.
All right.
We got it.
President Trump is weighing in on ABC's cancellation of Roseanne in the wake of her racist tweet. Bob Iger of ABC called Valerie Jarrett to let her know that ABC does not tolerate comments like those made by Roseanne Barr. He never called President Donald J. Trump to apologize for the horrible statements made and said about me on ABC. Maybe I just didn't get the call. Nice. The president's tweet came Wednesday at 12:25 p.m., following last night's big rally in Nashville, where many pointed out that Trump said not a word about the cancellation of the show that starred one of his biggest supporters.
I'm fine.
Valerie Jarrett, who served as President Obama's senior advisor, told MSNBC,
who looks as white as I am.
I think you got a better tan than her.
Tuesday that Disney CEO Bob Iger had called her to apologize for Roseanne's tweet.
He said that he had zero tolerance for that sort of racist, bigoted comment, and he wanted me to know before he made it public that he was canceling his show.
There was swift reaction to the president's intervention.
It's a lose for the president.
What?
I'm sorry he sent this tweet out. But
no.
I am done with Judge Napolitano. Judge Napolitano has now jumped. This is multiple times now.
Yeah.
He's jumped the rail. He's become a never-Trumper.
He did.
But White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders said ABC's apology reflects a double standard.
Okay, just before Sarah's in the press briefing, and I watched this, and they're not going to show this, but the reporter was bashing her on the question of Roseanne, and so Sarah just waited patiently. This was locked and loaded and ready to go, and she destroyed that reporter.
There was the apology for Kathy Griffin going on a profane rant against the president on The View after a photo showed her holding President Trump's decapitated head. And where was the apology from Bob Iger for ESPN hiring Keith Olbermann after his numerous expletive-laced tweets attacking the president as a Nazi and even expanding Olbermann's role after that attack against the president's family? This is a double standard that the president is speaking about. No one is defending her comments. They're inappropriate, but that's what the point that he was making.
The president's tweet came as Roseanne seemed to be in a defiant mood, tweeting, "You guys make me feel like fighting back. I will examine all my options."
Everybody
encouraged her.
Yeah, everybody on social media was encouraging this.
And I'm about to explain to you after this segment.
She also appeared to blame her castmates for the cancellation. She singled out comedian Wanda Sykes, the show's consulting producer and writer.
She's a racist.
Who, before the show was canceled, had announced on Tuesday that she was quitting. Her tweet made ABC very nervous, and they canceled the show, Roseanne claimed. She also lashed out at criticism from co-star Sarah Gilbert, who denounced Roseanne's tweet as abhorrent. Wow, unreal, Roseanne shot back. After co-star Michael Fishman urged everyone to stand up against bias, hatred, bigotry, and ignorance, Roseanne fired off this angry tweet. You throw me under the bus. I'm tired of being attacked and belittled more than other comedians who have said worse. She also...
She is absolutely 100% right about that. There's no question about it. She's 100% right.
Retweeted this doctored photo of Whoopi Goldberg. Whoopi vented her anger.
That's a picture for those of you who listen to audio only. It's Whoopi Goldberg opening up...
At a protest with the pussy hat.
Right. Opening up, and she's wearing the pussy hat too. Opening up her jacket to expose a blue T-shirt with a picture of Donald Trump on it, a gun to his head, and the other side of his head being blown out. And it says, "Make America Great Again."
Right. The suggestion being that if you were to do that, if Donald Trump were to do that to himself, that would make America great again.
Right.
On The View.
Here is the truth about the shirt I was wearing at the Women's March in New York. It very clearly says, and you thought I was a nasty woman before, buckle up, buttercup. Mm-hmm. Now, some bonehead.
There's some talented, very talented. Oh, come on. So many people believed it.
Yeah.
Photoshopped a horrific image on the shirt.
Oh, now it's horrific.
And she retweeted this.
Yeah.
So this is what I'm going to say, Roseanne, that just because you were caught with your pants down, don't try to drag other people down with you. You understand?
In a Twitter storm, Roseanne was alternately combative and contrite. I'm sorry, I did something unforgivable, so do not defend me. It was egregious, indefensible. I made a mistake. I wish I hadn't.
That was her mistake, apologizing.
Yeah, she shouldn't have apologized more than maybe one time. And I do say maybe. I mean, we've seen that not apologizing apologizing doesn't seem to work anymore with the left. So if they want to take the gloves off, they're not going to win this battle.
No.
But she also blamed the sleeping pill Ambien for her notorious tweet about Valerie Jarrett. It was 2 a.m, and I was Ambien tweeting, Roseanne is now saying. We asked Dr. Mike Varshavsky if Ambien could really be responsible.
It can alter your mental state and make you say things that may be out of normal or out of character for you.
But the makers of Ambien responded, racism is not a known side effect of any medication.
And see, that's a lie, too.
We're learning more.
Fake news. All this is fake news. So Ambien is even ignorant on this.
No, Carrie, there's no medication with side effect of racism.
It was clever. I'll give them that. The problem is they're using fake news. They're using dishonesty for comedy at the expense of conservatives, and actually, in order to further poor race relations in America, and they should be ashamed of themselves for that. Go ahead.
In the scenes drama that brought the show to a sudden death on Tuesday.
They decided within a couple of hours they had to pull the plug on the show. As one source said to me, this was unsurvivable. There was no way back from this for Roseanne Barr. There was no apology or no sanction that was going to be sufficient.
To me, that's proof that they had this lock, stock, and barrel.
Brian Stelter, little baby Brian Stelter said there was people
close. You got to do it like him. There was no excuse. There was no coming back.
Sources close to the
situation. You're not high enough. You got to go way higher.
Sources
there you go.
Sources close to the situation said.
That's it. That literally is how high his voice is.
That there was no coming back.
It's just too much soy. We're not making fun of him, that way. We're just saying that if you lay off the soy, you'll probably sound a little bit better. Okay. So here's what everybody's missing and why I think you can throw racism totally out the window. I don't think that Roseanne should have said, I made a big mistake. I think that she should have. I mean, the mistake is that she there's a very smart guy that I'm friends with on Twitter who said, it was one of our patrons.
Oh, I was going to say thank you, but then.
No, it was one of our patrons.
Well, I patronized you.
Oh, okay. Well, one of our patrons said, if you have to explain the joke, it's not a funny joke.
Right,
it's a
true,
fail.
True.
It's a fail if you have to explain the joke. And the problem with her tweet was that it was just, there's so much behind it. I mean, you almost have to be a baby boomer, and the reason why. Real quick, the tweet that got her fired was Muslim Brotherhood and Planet of the Apes had a baby equals VJ, VJ being short for Valerie Jarrett. And the thing is she doesn't say an ape. She says Planet of the Apes, referring not to any Planet of the Apes movie, but based on her age. She's talking about the original one. And for those of you that don't know, and by the way, I'm too young to know this. I had to have this explained to me by my dad. Planet of the Apes was the blockbuster of its day.
Right,
Absolute blockbuster. People were watching it multiple times. People were talking about it at the water cooler. It was, it's Charlton Heston.
The Titanic.
It was the Titanic of its day. I mean, it was the blockbuster of its day. And that affects people his age. It becomes a part of their culture. And Valerie Jarrett, by the way, I actually forgot what she looked like until
I did
this
too.
made the news. Yeah, and I had to actually see it when they finally posted it. But what? Oh, you got a picture up. Okay. Well, I don't know if you want to show that, but
I got to.
Bill Mitchell posted that, by the way. It caused a huge firestorm. There's actually a side by side. You could show because I can explain it. So this is the picture that got Bill Mitchell in a little bit of hot water, but the woman on the right is the character from the female ape, I guess, character from the original show. This is played by a white woman with white skin. And by the way, the apes in that movie were kind of like an evolved, I don't know if it was like an evolved ape or a devolved human, but they were extremely highly intelligent in the movie. They were super civilized. They were so civilized that when Charlton Heston crash landed on this mysterious planet, which, spoiler alert, it ended up being Earth far in the future, they had to lock them up because the humans were considered dumb and primitive. You got to see this movie again. Yeah. So these are super highly evolved.
So this would be a compliment to Valerie Jarrett.
Well, if you reference the movie Planet of the Apes, and you're talking about the original one, I haven't even seen the new revamped one. I don't even know. But they were super highly evolved, super intelligent, very civilized, very whatever. They considered humans to be uncivilized and they need to be locked up. They put him in a cage. They put Charlton Heston in a cage.
I do remember that scene. I've seen different scenes of it. Okay. I do remember that.
So there's that. And that's how much you have to explain this to figure out where Roseanne Parr's coming from. But here's the key. Her first follow-up tweet to somebody saying, somebody responded, Gary Roche said, "Has racism dog seen this?" So obviously he was calling that tweet racist. Roseanne Barr, this was her first tweet after the tweet heard around the world, and that is, Muslims are not a race. Now let me tell you what her original post was again. Muslim Brotherhood and Planet of the Apes had a baby equals VJ. Somebody called it racist. What did Roseanne Barr think? Well, Muslim's not a race. She thought that somebody was calling her tweet racist because she talked about the Muslim Brotherhood, which, by the way, Valerie Jarrett is a very outspoken Muslim.
Yes, she was born in Iran.
Well, and not only that, but she actually tweeted, and I don't have it in front of me, but something to the effect, I'll paraphrase it, that she's going to execute the office under Obama with the Muslim with her Muslim faith in mind, like literally.
She did say that,
yes,
didn't she?
Yes, absolutely. So this is why Roseanne Barr pointed out Muslim Brotherhood and also said it's not racist because Muslim's not a race. She was possibly unaware that the reference of Planet of the Apes and Valerie Jarrett was even racist at all. So Jamie Crew, who is Crusader with AH at the end and a Y, Crusader with a Y, very funnily, hilariously spelled, says Adam Scott says, no one seems to be including the entirety of Roseanne's tweets. Her second tweet seems exculpatory of being intentionally racist. And Adam Scott responded to that by saying, I can't read Roseanne's mind, but we observe she didn't address the ape part, looks exculpatory to me. What does that mean? That means that, well, I sum it up right here. I say, yep, her follow-up tweet pretty much proves one of two things. Either A, Roseanne was unaware of the self-evident racism of mentioning any primate in the same sentence as a POC, a person of color, or B, Roseanne was unaware that Valerie Jarrett was a person of color. Nobody believes part A, because everybody seems to think that if you mention any kind of a primate in the same sentence as a person of color, that's automatically racism.
Right.
So since nobody believes A, it's got to be B. It must be true. And Adam Scott actually responded to that, saying, rational thinking is so rare that it surprises me when I see it. Thank you for the surprise. So thank you, Scott Adams, for saying that. Now, here's what I wanted to address, though. Somebody responded to that, saying that
with a bar of soap. What is that?
Yeah, they were. Oh, you didn't see that one?
I know that one.
It's Adam Schiff going to prison.
Oh, and somebody threw a bar of soap on a rope at him on the floor.
Yeah. So anyway, oops, sorry about that. Let me get back to the response there. So somebody responded. Let me find it real quick. Mentioning any primate in the same sentence as a POC equals racism? If you say so, how many definitions are there? Who decides? And how are the others to know? And is this a good system, whatever it is? And somebody said, I never knew that Valerie Jarrett was a POC, not that it matters. And so I wanted to respond to the people that were a little offended by me saying that was the controversial part, that I would say that when you mention a primate in the same sentence as a POC, a person of color, that is self-evident racism. That's kind of that's a little controversial. It needs a little bit of a follow-up, so I'll go ahead and tell you for everybody listening. This is a rule that has been chiseled in stone by the left, and I was kind of parodying that it was a self-evident racism. I was parodying the left's rules here. And it is true that if you go by the leftist rules, good think, what was it? Group think? Not what is newspeak? Good speak, good think. That if you mention any kind of a primate in the same sentence as a person of color, that in their minds it's automatic racism no matter what the thought process was. I'm not saying that I agree that we should live by that rule, but this is something that is so ingrained thanks to the Democrats that it is what it is, and if you want to combat that, let's do that. And by the way, a whole bunch of black conservatives were offended by this, and I'd like to point out one of our good friends that follow us, and just good friend, person of color, big-time Trump supporter, is offended that mentioning a primate in the same sentence as a person of color is in itself racism, because it means that you think that black people look like a primate.
Damn it, man.
Yeah. So now it's like, okay, so we can't even. And by the way, I agree with that. If your gut instinct reaction is to think that mentioning a gorilla or a monkey or something like that in the same sentence as a black person, let's say, if your gut instant reaction is,
don't do that.
That's racism.
It's got to be.
Then you're the one that thinks that the black person looks like a monkey. You're the one. And that's the way rational thinking people are looking at this now. They're like, wait a minute. If your gut reaction was that saying monkey when referring to a black person automatically means racism, which, by the way, Howard Cosell did it.
Oh, yeah.
You remember that?
That was it. Look at him running down there like a monkey.
He's running around the field like a monkey, and everybody's like, oh, did he just say that? And then he said it again.
But that, and the people that fired him are the ones that are racist, because Howard Cosell it'd be like me saying my kids are running around like a chicken with their head cut off. I don't think my kids look like chickens with heads cut off.
Right. He was referring to, his defense was, I call my grandchildren monkeys because they're running around, they're bouncing off the furniture, they're bouncing off the walls, they're crazy. They're so crazy, I call them monkeys. And the running back he was referring to was running circles around everybody. It reminded him not of an actual monkey. It actually reminded him of his grandchildren who are not even black. But because this running back at the time that he was referring to as a monkey was black, they were like, oh, he's racist. Look at him. He thinks that black people, all black people, not just a running back. Yeah, because the running back is running circles around this entire field. And because he referred to this behavior as looking like, like a spider monkey climbing, just going crazy, that this is somehow his belief that because the guy had black skin.
Right.
It's just crazy. It's racist on its face, not Howard Cosell, but the people who automatically think that. So that was my response to people who didn't like that rule. It's not my rule. I'm just repeating the rules of the Democrats, which we all know now are completely racist. By the way, Valerie Jarrett, I wouldn't have thought I would if I looked at her really closely and examine the heck out of her, might have been able to kind of make a guess that she was a person of color. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, did you know she was a person of color?
I had no idea.
Well, once you saw her picture, you were sure she wasn't.
Correct.
I mean, and by the way, what difference does it make?
Okay, this got me triggered the other day.
Okay.
All right, check it out, folks. I made the comment in my scope. I talked about this commercial, and I did pull it up. It's just this whole thing is it's nonsense. It's nuts, but it's the way that they keep a grip on us as a whole, as an entire. They keep the races divided. So I saw this commercial, and I was like,
oh, no.
How did they get away with this?
Search for a really strong glue that's clear.
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Clear glue. Clear Gorilla Glue.
Of course. Gorilla Glue strength in a crystal clear formula for the toughest jobs on planet Earth.
That is racist.
And it was a black family. It was a black husband and a black
racist. No,
wife.
It's not. It's not even. But you know what?
I saw it. I saw it at work. It came on the TV, and I was like, "Oh hell no!" Do they know that somebody's gonna? It's a silverback gorilla in the house of a black family.
Okay, at the place that I work at, at the place where I work at temporarily, part time.
Yeah.
They have a thing to alert. Oh, are we out of time?
Yeah, we're down in the minute.
Oh,
got about a minute left.
Okay. They have a thing that they post up on the wall with a projector. Huge! To indicate whether or not we have to work an extra hour or not.
Okay.
It's if you have to work an extra hour, it's a giant gorilla with his doing the flexing. And I said, "Oh, that's racist." And somebody actually said, "Why?" I said, "Haven't you heard about what happened to Roseanne this week?" And they were like, "Oh, I see what you're saying." So I made a big joke out of it.
Nice, because they talk about flexing forward or flexing your hours.
And you have to act strong, act like a gorilla. What about Mike Cernovich? Got the gorilla mindset.
Right, but he's white, though, so it's cool. And then Samantha Bee dropping the C word on Ivanka.
Yeah.
It's out of control, folks. I don't know what to say. That's how they own us. Ignore it. Absolutely ignore it. Sticks and stones will break my bones.
Don't be a slave mentally. Don't be a mental slave.
Yeah, get off the plantation. Hang out here with Smith Radio.
Free yourself. Free your mind. It's all up to you.
Share this with your friends and family all around, and visit us, smithradio.com, to see the show live.
See you guys.
Peace.
Don't forget, patreon.com/smithradio.
With unfathomable power.
What kind of power?
Unfathomable. It's without fathom.